WRUB HD3 Clearwater and the mighty AM 620 WDAE St. Petersburg, an iHeart radio station. It's Tuesday from Dade City to Carrollwood and all around Tampa Bay, plus worldwide on iHeart Radio.
The gloves are off. I'm playing hardball. It's 4th and 15, and you're looking at a full court press.
You're tuned into the voice of the Tampa Bay sports fan.
You're going to like this guy. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us.
Buckle up. You're on the drive with TKras. Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Yeah, welcome aboard on this wet and wild Tuesday. Good afternoon, Tampa Bay. The Drive with TKras, presented by Moss Nissan, is on the air. Great to have you with us on this Fill in the Blank Tuesday. Chris Mathis is on the other side, executive producer of this fine program, and of course, you there. We are live in living color, don't you know, on the FM side of 95.3. The mighty AM 620. And don't forget to download the new and improved iHeartRadio app, folks. Crystal clear reception. You can listen to us from anywhere in the civilized world through the app. If you're up in the snowy panhandle of Florida where it is snowing, we hope that you're, barricaded inside your homes and listening to us through the iHeartRadio app. It's a beautiful thing. There's the scan feature. There's the preset feature. So you can favorite your radio stations that are your go-tos. Don't forget to favorite WDAE and your favorite podcast, too. You can preset those like The Drive, commercial-free podcast of this hideous show, can be accessed through the new and improved iHeartRadio app. It's a beautiful thing. And good afternoon to all of you watching us on the stream on YouTube, Facebook, and X at 953 WDAE and AM 620. Like and subscribe all day, every day. The phone numbers, you know them, you love them. Now use them. 888-546-4620. That's the number. You can text in your thoughts. 82945 is the number. Begin your text with DAE, followed by your comments, and 140 characters or less. That's the Bartow 4 DAE text platform. And all guests will appear via the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network DAE hotline. We've got a wonderful 4-hour extravaganza for you as we'll take you up until 7 o'clock. A lot of football talk, man. A lot of football talk, a lot of college, a lot of NFL. At the bottom of the hour, 3:30, our guy John Ledgard, NFL analyst, loves the draft. Obviously, formerly with the Pewter Report. Love talking football with John, and we'll talk to him about the ending to the Bucs season, this head coaching cycle in the NFL, Championship Sunday, all of that with John Ledgard. He will join us coming up at 3:30. And speaking of the Buccaneers, lots of news that's breaking right now in the Buccaneers. We're going to get into that in a matter of minutes as well. But what do the Buccaneers salary cap? What does that look like heading into 2025? What kind of room will they have? Are they going to be able to bring back some of their free agents? Will they be players in free agency? So there are a lot of questions with the Bucs salary cap, so that's why we're getting Mike Janetti on. He is the man in charge of the Spot Track website. It's an awesome site that you can go on there. Salary caps from all the major teams, where everyone stands, contracts where everyone stands. I'm going to ask you about Baker Mayfield, Jamel Dean's contract. What about Chris Godwin? Can the Buccaneers bring him back? What about Levante David? The Buccaneers have more than 20 free agents. How many of those realistically will be coming back? I think most of those guys will be shown the door and allowed to leave. But
say that
yes, Jason Line, I know you're working very hard inside the Advent Health Training Center. I mean, you're not going outside. It's not a beach day today, I can tell you that. But we'll talk to Mike Janetti of Spot Track. He is coming up at 4 o'clock. Fill in the blank at 5:30 as we'll take you all the way up until 7 o'clock. There's so much to do, so many topics that we need to discuss. By the way, in an hour from now at 4 o'clock, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2025 will be announced. So We're going to bring you that announcement as soon as it comes down. I saw a couple of cheaters were on the ballot. I hope they don't get in. They shouldn't get in. Yes, Eric Neander, thank you. But Ichiro's a slam dunk. CeCe Sabathia won more than 250 games. I think he's going to get in. There's a couple of guys, and I had not my ballot, but I had the ballot with some guys that I liked, and it's somewhere amongst my pile of papers here. Papers, please. Papers. Yeah, I just read it this morning. Run. Billy Wagner should be in the Hall of Fame. Come on. It's his 10th and final year of eligibility. One of the great closers of all time. I think he's got to get in. You know, Andrew Jones won 10 consecutive Gold Gloves. I know he had a batting average of 254. Carlos Beltran is also another guy. So there are a couple of guys. Those are the guys that I would put in. Yeah, Ichiro, slam dunk. And I think he's going to be the first unanimous selection to the Hall of Fame since Mariano Rivera. There's only been one guy that got 100% all the votes, and that's Mariano Rivera. I think Ichiro will be the second guy, and we'll find out in an hour from now. So there'll be some baseball talk today on the heels of, I don't know, my rant yesterday when I said I hated baseball. I just hated what was happening in baseball. Chris Mathis, you said that I started. Well, write it down, Kevin Cash. And Chris Mathis, I can't see you right now.
Yes, sir.
Because the camera's down.
Right.
I can only hear you.
I can hear you.
Yes, thanks. I can hear you. But
do you like it? You like the ambiance?
I can't hear a word you're saying.
Well, so I don't know. I think it might be a good thing that I can't see you.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't burn your eyes anymore when you look up to look at me while I'm talking.
Well, usually, like what you wear to work definitely burns my retina.
Wow, what's up with that? Never been told that before.
Yeah. But you're all right, Spider. It's all right.
All right, cool. I'm not going to get... Okay, got it.
So we will get into the baseball conversation in about an hour from now. We'll find out who makes the Hall of Fame and everything else. So there's so much to do. Calls and texts 4 hours from now. I'll tell you what, man. I woke up. I'll tell you what, man. You know, I don't like snow. You know what I mean? You know, you ever make snowballs and throw them at people? There is snow in the state of Florida as we speak. And I am looking at live pictures of Pensacola, and it's snowing. The I-10 corridor, there's snow everywhere. This is wild to me. Unfortunately, it's never going to make it down here. And look, selfishly, I wouldn't mind seeing a few snowflakes, but here's what else I will say. People here don't know how to drive. Under normal conditions, we have a lot of stupid drivers, and I saw more of that example today. Many examples. Can you imagine if there's snow out there? And what's worse than snow, and trust me, I was born and raised in it. It's freezing rain, man. I would rather deal with 8 to 10 inches of snow than 1 inch of freezing rain that makes contact with the sidewalks and the roadways. It just turns into a sheet of ice. It is impossible to drive in. That's what you don't want to see. And I think areas to our north of our listening area, you might see some of that freezing rain and sleet. Trust me, do not go outside. Do not even attempt to drive in that. That is my public service announcement. I've driven through blizzards. I've driven through all sorts of wild stuff. Snowstorms, what have you. I almost had a tree fall onto my car one time driving in Westchester County. But the worst driving conditions I have ever been in. And I remember this. I was an intern at WFAN, and I drove home late one night. I was one of their producers. I was cutting tape of highlights. 2 a.m. I drove home. There was freezing rain. I saw so many accidents, and to this day, I don't even know how I got home that night. Driving from Queens all the way down the BQE over to Staten Island, I have no idea how I did it. And I was thankful. I remember when I got home, and it took me like 3 hours plus to get home because the conditions were treacherous, and you had to be very careful. I was driving an Oldsmobile at the time. Oh, Those were the days, man. But be careful. Don't be one of these clowns thinking, oh, I can't wait. I'm going to go see some snow. I'm going to drive up 75, and that's what I'm seeing along social media. People want to drive up north just so they can see snow. It's not worth it. Relax your ass. Sit your ass at home and listen to the drive. Nice, warm, cozy house or apartment, wherever you may be living. Turn the heat up a little bit. Be comfortable. Don't go out. It's yucky out. It's miserable out. This is where you want to be, right here on The Drive. All right, so the college football national champion was crowned last night, and I'm here to dispel some myths that have been running rampant since late last night, and I'm tired of it. That is the theme of our opening drive here.
Start the engine. Gas to the floor. Here's the opening drive.
Opening drive presented by the award-winning Chattanooga Whiskey 91, available at your favorite Tampa retail store. Drink Chattanooga whiskey and enjoy responsibly. Sounds like a great idea if you're barricaded up. You don't go outside. Pour a little Chattanooga whiskey, maybe listen to the drive. I think you'll be in a great place. So last night, Ohio State, and I kind of felt bummed that I didn't put any action on this through the Hard Rock Bet app. I was tempted to. But if I was going to put some action on the game, I would have had Notre Dame plus the 9.5. And as it turned out, late in the game, Ohio State kicks this field goal because Notre Dame was within 8. They were covering. And then Ohio State gets the big pass to Jeremiah Smith. They get into field goal range, and with a few seconds left, they kick the field goal. So much money changed hands on that final field goal. My goodness. Just like, a lot of money changed hands, over the weekend. And I know a lot of you noticed on that Houston-Kansas City game where the Kansas City punter runs out of the back of the end zone and Kansas City was covering until they weren't covering. And the dude runs out of the back of the end zone, and that costs a lot of people some money too. But I digress. I'll give Notre Dame credit for this. That opening drive was extraordinary. Unfortunately for them, they tapped out right after that. They peaked opening drive of the game, which lasted almost 10 minutes. They go all the way down the field. And Riley Leonard, he caps it off with this touchdown run. And then the dude is seen on the sidelines. He's puking his brains out. And that was it, dude. They exhausted every single bit of energy and emotion and physicality on that opening drive. And Ohio State's like, okay, is that all you got? It's time to take over. And they did. The Buckeyes scored 21 points in the second quarter. Jeremiah Smith catches a touchdown to tie the game, and then Ohio State begins a run of 31 consecutive points. It was 31-7 midway through the third quarter. That's it. See you later. Now, Notre Dame was able to make a run. The kicker missed the field goal when they were down 31-15. Marcus Freeman decided to go for the field goal. It comes off the upright. And I give Notre Dame credit because they scratched and clawed their way. They got to within 8. And then the zero blitz, and Will Howard made a tremendous throw to Jeremiah Smith for 56 yards, and then the field goal kind of iced the game away. 34-23 was the final. But, look, I like Marcus Freeman a lot, and I think his next job will be in the NFL. And he's going to lose some guys, but he's also going to return the O-line, a couple of those running backs, a couple of players on defense. Notre Dame's going to be pretty good next year. And after that loss to Northern Illinois, which was unforgettable and unforgivable, they had won 13 in a row until last night. But you got to like Marcus Freeman, how he motivates that team. He's got his hand in every single aspect of that football team. He's a CEO. He's a motivator. He's a tactician. And I think it's only a matter of time before NFL teams call on him. And he's going to get a job. I don't think he's at Notre Dame in 2 years. Let's just put it that way. I think within 2 years, Marcus Freeman will be coaching in the NFL. And as for Ryan Day, listen, This is redemption for him because he was at the absolute abyss of his coaching career after he lost to Michigan again for the fourth time. His job was certainly on the line. They made the playoff. If he had lost to Tennessee in the first round, he would have been out. And you got to give Ohio State, they always had the talent. I mean, they got talent everywhere. And, you know, you see all these NFL scouts or draft experts saying that Ohio State will have at least 15 players drafted in the next draft, which is entirely possible. You know who else is not going to the draft? Jeremiah Smith, because he can't. And maybe if he did, he might get picked right at the top because there is no transcendent quarterback coming out of this year's draft. If Jeremiah Smith was available, he would probably be the number one pick. But he's not. And he's going to come back, and they have to figure out the quarterback position. But Ohio State will reload. I mean, they'll lose more than a dozen players to the NFL, but they will find a way to reload. But the victory over Tennessee, and it was a loud, resounding statement then, some people are like, okay, that's good. Let's see what you do against Oregon, number one team in the country. And they blew them out by 20. And then Texas. Texas couldn't get out of their own way. They made way too many mistakes. They took care of them. And then Notre Dame got up 7-0. They could have cracked, but they didn't. Talent always wins in the end, especially in college football. I mean, coaching matters, but man, oh man, when you have as much talent as the Buckeyes have, you should beat everybody. And at the end of the day, they did. So you got to give Ryan Day credit because he bounced back from that awful loss to Michigan. His career was on the ropes. His job was on the line. And he found a way to get that ship rectified. And they went on a nice run, and they ended up winning it all. They were probably the most talented team, and talent does win out at the end of the day. Kudos. So congratulations to them. I know there are a lot of Ohio State fans out there living among us in our listening area here in the Tampa Bay region. Good for you. Good for you. And how was it? But here's the statement that I kept hearing last night, this morning, and it irritates me. This notion that, whoa, the SEC is dead. The Big Ten is now the big boys on the block. They've won the last 2 national championships. Give me a break. Stop. Reports of any demise involving the SEC are premature, and I'm here to tell you that. Okay, Michigan won it 2 years ago. Jim Harbaugh's gone. He went to the NFL. Ryan Day had the most talented team, and yet talent wins at the very end, and kudos to him. He was able to get it done. He probably has the best player in college football, and Jeremiah Smith, a true freshman, on his team. Kudos. But don't give me this garbage that the Big Ten now is rulers of the roost and that the SEC is done. The SEC's time has passed. That's a bunch of garbage, man. Take that garbage somewhere else. Who are you going to do? Penn State. Penn State doesn't win a big game ever. And I hate to tell you this, because maybe they didn't tell you this. Maybe they didn't go up there and tell you. Indiana was overrated. Who do they play? Give me a break. Indiana's this darling team that everyone kind of fell in love with during the regular season. The Indiana Hoosiers, a basketball school. And all of a sudden, like they're the talk of the town. Come on. When they played a real team, they got waxed. They didn't play anybody else, okay? There are about a half a dozen teams that would have wiped the floor with Indiana out of the SEC. Stop. Stop with this Big Ten is now the king of the hill and the SEC's time is over. That's garbage. And according to the ESPN Bet app, the favorites to win the national championship next year, and Ohio State is certainly one of them, is Texas. Where's Texas? In the SEC. Arch Manning. Georgia will be back. They're among the favorites. Alabama will be back. They're among the favorites. Tennessee should be pretty good. LSU has Garrett Nussmeier returning. They should be pretty good. Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin. South Carolina is one of the hottest teams. Florida with DJ Lagway. So don't give me this Big Ten, baby. Get off with that. Stop. The SEC will be heard from, okay? Enjoy your time in the sun, Big Ten. You won this time around. You won the last 2 years. But don't give me this notion that this is the Big Ten's title now to lose moving forward. It's garbage. You know what you could do with garbage? You take it out, and you let the garbage men pick up the garbage. Take that crap outside, because it doesn't work here. The SEC will be heard from. I was able to get that off my chest. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. That's just nonsense. Give me a break. That's all it is. Mike Janetti will join us at 4 o'clock. The Major League Baseball Hall of Fame announcement will also take place in that 4 o'clock hour. We'll break that down, fill in the blank a little bit later on. Your calls and texts are coming up. When we come back, though, we are down to the Final Four in the NFL. Is Jaden Daniels the real deal? Can he win at Philadelphia? What about Mahomes versus Allen in the AFC? Who emerges there? And the Buccaneers, could they lose Liam Cohen? And if they lose Liam Cohen, how big of a loss would that be? All things NFL with John Ledgard, our guy. He will join us coming up next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Be careful out there. As we mentioned, there's a lot of snow up along the I-10 corridor in northern Florida, which is just nuts. And you know, normally out there, there's some rain. It's cold. Normally, people don't know how to drive, so be on your best behavior out there, folks. And if you or someone you love happens to be the victim of a car accident, motorcycle accident, truck accident, you need to call on my guys over at Catania and Catania, the personal injury law firm that's been doing their thing the last 30 years. They work on a contingency, which means they don't get paid unless you get paid. They've gotten a lot of money for their clients over the years. How about $1 billion over the last 30 years for injury victims just like you? And when I had my injury mishap, I called them. They're representing me and my interests. They can do the same for you. So protect your rights. Should the worst occur, these are the guys you need to call. Here's the number, 813-222-8545. That's 813-222-8545. Or hit them up online. Get a free evaluation.
Presented by Moss Nissan on WDAE.
I just feel like, I can still, impact the game, be more consistent in that area. But I do still love the game of football. That's the main thing. I've been playing the game since I was 6 years old. I never missed a year. And I think the love of football will always be there with me.
Levante David speaking last week about his future, and that was a hint to me that he could very well be back for year number 14. He's 34 going on 35. How will this Buccaneer team look next year? What about Liam Cohen? What if he takes the Jacksonville job? Can the Buccaneers be among the team's elite? And what about Championship Sunday? Who you got? Welcome back. 3:30 on your ride home. The Drive with yours truly, TKras, Tom Krasnicki. Great to have you with us. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. So let's talk all things NFL with our guy from the Audibles and Analytics podcast. John Ledgard is with us on the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network DA hotline. Learn more at cfbhn.org. And John joins us here on a wet and wild Tuesday. How are you, Johnny boy?
I'm doing great, TKras. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you, man. Hope you and the family are doing well. And the weather here is a little wild. What's the weather like, by the way, up in western PA? Tell us.
Yeah, I'm in the mountains here. -8 this morning.
No.
And, the wind chill. It's pretty brutal. We got about 2 feet of snow.
Oh, my gosh. Now, I don't know if you've seen the news, but there's snow here in Florida, believe it or not, in the Panhandle.
That's crazy.
In the I-10 corridor, Pensacola. So we're not going to get any down here in the Tampa Bay area, but yeah, man, there's some snow here in the state of Florida, which is wild.
That is crazy.
It sure is. So talk to me about the Bucs, because I know you saw the game, disappointing end against the Commanders. Just your overall thoughts on the kind of season that the Buccaneers had.
Kind of the way that the playoffs have ended for a lot of these teams so far. Like, they play fine, but they just make a couple mistakes, and that dooms you. The other team just plays clean. We really have seen games that I think are pretty tightly competitive for the most part in the playoffs, but we have seen one team kind of commit the 3 or 4 backbreaking mistakes or turnovers, and the other team commits none in a lot of these results. I mean, this past weekend, we basically had 3 of those games outside of the Chiefs-Texans game. So I think that has been just a massive storyline of the entire playoffs, and the Bucs were kind of in a similar boat where I feel like they actually played well. They had the game in hand. They played well enough in some key moments. But, yeah, when you only have 44 offensive plays, it's really hard to win a football game. You have basically no margin for error. And so when you have 2 bad plays that really doom you kind of the way they did, and then Bowles, what I thought was probably the more egregious mistakes the entire playoffs by a coach not going for it on that 4th and 2, 4th and 3, I thought those were kind of the play. Those were the margins, right? Washington goes for it 5 times, converts 3 on 4th down, and they win the game. Obviously get a touchdown on a 4th down in a situation which would have been so easy not to go for it after they failed on the 4th down before, and then to come back after the fumble and go for it again on 4th down and get it. That was just like, those are the margins. Like, you have to be aggressive and stick to your mindset. And Bowles has, to his credit, increased his aggressiveness exponentially in 4th down situations. Is a huge reason why the Bucs have had offensive success this year, and he just didn't in that game. So, yeah, just the margin for error really small in the playoffs, and I think that's been really evident this year, and more so probably than in years past.
You mentioned the Buccaneers and their offensive success, and the orchestrator has been Liam Cohen, and now he's interviewing for a second time with Jacksonville. That's expected to take place tomorrow, so the Jags probably really like him. I don't know if Liam would take the job if offered. It is a head coaching job in the NFL. You get to work with Trevor Lawrence, but you got Trent Baalke up there too, whom a lot of people don't want to work with. So how would you assess this? If Liam Cohen takes this job, then what?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge blow, and here's why. It's not necessarily that there's no way the Bucs could have a good offense, not necessarily that there's no way they could have a good offense in 2025. I don't think those things are necessarily off the table. It is about the long-term direction of the franchise. Like, I think, and this is my opinion, and so obviously that's going to inform my analysis of the situation, but watching Liam Cohen this year and watching the way that he calls plays, the diversity of his attack, everything he does just being so even different from what he did in college, just a guy who's like totally in sync with his roster and able to build an offense around whatever his roster is at that point in time, whether it's Chris Godwin, not having Chris Godwin changes things dramatically, not having Mike Evans changes things dramatically, still producing against top opponents, still producing offensively. I thought that was just so unbelievably impressive how few times, in few drives the entire season, I was like, oh, the OC's at fault. Like, the structure of the offense is at fault, the scheme's at fault. And I was very critical of Leftwich in that area and how I thought Tom Brady elevated them at times. I think Canales was somewhere between these two where I liked certain things that he did. I really disagreed with other things he did. I think I still feel the same way about him. But Cohen, I think, can be, honestly, TKras, in that tier. Like, I think he can be in that McVay, Shanahan, like those kinds of guys. Those teams with relative health are in the playoffs every single year. They're competing for Super Bowls every single year. Like those types of teams, those types of coaches, the Andy Reids, the top offensive minds. I think Cohen could be the next one of those guys, similar to how Ben Johnson is becoming the next one of those guys. That doesn't mean he'll be a great head coach. It's just an asset you can't lose in the NFL. There's probably 7 or 8 of those special type of offensive minds every year that are just elevate their team consistently. Sean McVay's remade his offense over and over again to looking totally different based on whatever his team is, whatever talent he has. He's remade his run scheme. Cohen has already shown us he can be that guy and be successful in the NFL. Those are just very rare. They're one of the top assets in the league. That type of play caller and offensive mind and franchise quarterbacks are the rarest thing in the league. If you have them, you cannot let him leave. So does Todd Bowles deserve to be fired? I do not think he does, but deserve ain't got nothing to do with it. If you're going to lose an asset like that, you have to do whatever it takes to be able to keep it.
John Ledgard, NFL analyst, Audibles and Analytics podcast, is with me here on The Drive on a Tuesday. So I know you're big into the draft. Bucs have the 19th pick. Edge rusher, obviously, is a huge need. I think just as important, John, is corner, because Jamel Dean's a guy that once again got nicked up a little bit. The secondary had their fair share of problems. I think they need a cover cornerback there. But hey, give me a couple of names. Give us a primer as to the 19th pick. Who would look good in a Buccaneer uniform?
It's kind of funny because the Bucs do need an upgraded edge rusher and they need an upgraded corner, and yet this scheme has not really been like, we have to draft these guys super high at this position. I think, honestly, if Todd Bowles is going to continue to be the head coach in this scheme, I think linebacker is what they need to upgrade on the most this season. We'll see if Levante David's back. Even if he is, like, the age is catching up with him. As much as he still can make some plays and he's still like a solid player, he can't do everything. This specific defense, being a zone-heavy defense, asking your middle linebackers to patrol a ton of space in the middle of the field and be playmakers and blitzers like that. You just can't have anybody do that. You have to have great athletes for that type of role. And we saw how poorly it went when a subpar athlete in KJ Britt played this season. And even just plugging somebody who could move in that spot upgraded things, even though there was obviously other deficiencies with some of these guys like JJ Russell who had barely played. So that is just a massive hole. They have to fill that hole. That is a massive part of their defense and their structure. On corner, I mean, they've found guys in later rounds. They haven't been a team that's invested a lot in first-round corners. They can find day 2 guys to play in this scheme. They feel like well enough. Now, you can question, and it's funny because one of the ways they need to improve the most is tackling. And that a lot of times speaks to athleticism, guys that will hit physicality. That's a big reason why they moved on from Carlton Davis. That part of his game had just evaporated in Tampa Bay. But Jamel Dean is one of the best tacklers on the team in terms of getting people on the ground. He's also one of the most oft-hurt players on the team. Even though there hasn't been a major injury, you just can't count on him to finish any game that he starts. So at some point that becomes an issue. But if you lose him, you also lose your best player tackling-wise in the secondary. I think Winfield will get back to that, but this past year he wasn't great in that regard. Zion and Whitehead struggled. Izzian was one of the leaders in the league in missed tackles. Tyke Smith had good and bad moments at times. As a rookie, you'd expect that to improve. But they are going to start Zion, Winfield, and Tyke Smith next season in 3 of the 5 starting spots in the secondary. Who's the other safety going to be is a question, and whether they'll keep Dean at his cap number is a question. So you're right, they need corner. I just don't know how big of an investment it'll be. And then at edge rusher, they need a player there for sure that's a difference maker. But this is a team, I mean, you can go back to Bulls days with the Jets. They've invested more in defensive tackle than they did in having great edge rushers. Because of their scheme, they just blitz and drop a lot. So you don't have to necessarily be able to beat guys 1v1. So I think with Braswell's development, I don't know that they'll see it as big a need as some fans do.
We're down to the Final Four, Championship Sunday. You got Buffalo and Kansas City once again. Is this the year, John, that Josh Allen finally conquers Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs?
It could be. It's funny. Buffalo, I would have said going into the playoffs, I would probably pick them to beat Kansas City, but they really didn't play very well against Baltimore, which has me sort of, and I think Kansas City's played better. They weren't great against the Texans, but they have played better great as the season's kind of gone on. And Buffalo's got kind of this, they just can't generate a pass rush. So that, and the Chiefs offensive line, the interior is great, but the outside, they've struggled so much at the tackle spots. So to me, that's the key point of the game is like the Bucs pass rush has not been, or the Bills pass rush has not been great as the season's gone on. It's really struggling. It really struggled against the Ravens, Lamar all day. And then the Chiefs tackle play has been really subpar, and they struggled a ton against the Texans. So which one of those weak links will kind of win out in this upcoming matchup? If the Chiefs can win that one, I think that part of the game, I think they'll win the game. But ultimately, it's just going to be hard to pick against Kansas City, given like how good that defense is in the playoffs. I mean, Buffalo certainly has some of the answers, I think, but it's going to be an awesome game. I definitely think Josh Allen is going to need to do more than he did against the Ravens. That's not a knock on him. That's just how they approach the game. But I think he'll need to do more against the Chiefs than he did against the Ravens for them to win.
Agreed. He's got to throw for more than 128 yards, and I think he will do that. I actually think Buffalo wins that game. And then the other game, you got Jaden Daniels, who is just having an extraordinary season as a rookie quarterback, the best one that we've ever seen. Can they go into Philadelphia and pull off the upset against the Eagles? You want to talk about passing games that really has not gotten off the ground. It looks like the Eagles' passing game is that. Their running game is all that. Their passing game, though, leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, I mean, their passing game is so bad at this point, TKras, that I really have serious concerns. And everything else about the Eagles, they're the favorite. It's just like, can you get competent, solid, like good quarterback play from Jalen Hurts the rest of the way? I just have no idea. I mean, even the body language, everything about how he's playing right now looks like he's on a losing team in a lost situation. And everything else about the team is awesome. It's just like so strange. And that's been the whole Eagles thing, right? It's like they're winning. Their record's amazing under Sirianni. The vibe seems so weird. Do people even like each other? Like there's a part of their team is so dysfunctional and the rest of it is like elite that it's just, I can't really even compare it to past situations with teams because you just really don't know. Washington, everything seems to be clicking for them right now. One of the, the best quarterback in the playoffs so far, in my opinion, has been Jaden Daniels. So it does feel like things are moving in that direction with Washington. The interesting part to me, Washington got pressure with 4 really well against the Lions. And the Lions have a good offensive line, not as good in pass protection as some people think, I think, but they got pressure with 4, and John Allen came back, and that was a big story of that game. They were a 38% blitz rate team, and they dropped down to 19% against the Lions and pressured Jared Goff a ton. That's a huge part of it. If they can do that with Hurts and get pressure with 4 and he continues to hold the ball like this, I think Washington is going to be so ready for the run game and so ready to tee off, even though they're going to still give up some plays. I think they can pull off the upset if they can get to Hurts with 4.
I agree with you. And you just mentioned Ben Johnson before. A brilliant move by the Bears. You get Ben Johnson, you weaken your division rival. So just your overall thoughts on Ben Johnson and how he can help Caleb Williams.
I think it's obvious a move on the surface. Now, there's always this unknown, right? I mean, you can be a great offensive mind and be a terrible head coach. You need soft skills. You need like so many other traits to be able to be a good head coach. So all we can do is make the best guesses we can make, right? And from our vantage point, it sure seems like this is the move that they needed to make. They needed to get an offensive guy in there. Caleb Williams was obviously vocal about being excited about Ben Johnson during the process. That's huge, I think. And the question now becomes just what kind of quarterback is Caleb Williams going to be in the NFL? And that to me has always been the question with him. All this talent, but what kind of quarterback is he? Is he going to continue to be a guy who kind of seeks chaos and wants to only play out of structure? Well, he just signed up with a coach that is going to be pretty fanatical about playing within structure, I think, even if it's not. I'm sure Ben Johnson will recognize Caleb Williams is different than Jared Goff. He's not an idiot. But I do think there's going to be some tendency of you have to curb some of these 10 crazy scrambles a game type of plays if we're going to be a successful offense and a consistent offense. And that is going to be, I think, where Caleb Williams makes it or breaks it in the NFL. He's either going to learn to be able to play within structure and make quicker decisions, even if there are elements of his game that can still be creation, can still be getting out of the pocket and moving in a way that Jared Goff was never able to in this and Ben Johnson's offense, obviously. Even if those elements are leaned into more, I think it's ultimately going to become about not so much about the fit of Caleb and Ben Johnson as it is Caleb Williams good? And I think that's what we'll find out, like whether he can be NFL level good or not, because more so than, does Caleb specifically fit with Ben Johnson? Maybe they made the wrong hire. I don't think so. I think Ben Johnson is smart enough to figure out what will make Caleb the best pro. The question is whether he'll ever do that consistently enough to be able to be good in the NFL. That's the big question I have.
One of our favorite NFL analysts from the mountains of western Pennsylvania, where the temperature is sub-zero. He is John Ledgard, Audibles and Analytics Podcast. You can check him out there. You can also follow him on X as well. Really great follow there, too. John, stay warm. Always appreciate it, man, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Absolutely, man. Thanks so much for having me, as always.
You're awesome, man. We'll talk soon. That's John Ledgard. Great stuff there. 2 feet of snow? I don't think so. Boy, I've been there and done that. All right, so he mentioned Ben Johnson. So the Bears just put out a video of their new head coach, the former Lions offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, walking into Hallis Hall, and you have dozens of Bears employees like giving him a hero's welcome like the Raiders did when Tom Brady walked into their facility after it was signed, sealed, and delivered. He became part owner. So this is what Ben Johnson had to say to all these Bears employees, to his new family in Chicago.
Listen, thank you so much. My family and I, we are beyond excited. This is exactly where we wanted to be. This is exactly where we wanted to be.
Where we want you.
This is going to be a challenge. I am well aware of that.
This is exactly where we wanted to be. How do you think the Lions feel about that? That statement. Translation, I couldn't wait to get out of there, especially after how we lost to the Commandos. Oh, boy. I love it. That's going to be interesting. I think Ben Johnson is a great thing for Caleb Williams. Now, the first thing he needs to do is upgrade that O-line. And he's got to do it in a big way. And one thing to watch for is the Lions free agents, especially on offense. Keep an eye on those guys. I think one of their offensive, Kevin Zietler, I think he's a free agent. And I would expect Ben Johnson to pursue him and guys that he knows who are free agents in order to get them over to Chicago to help him and that rebuilding process. So really interesting remarks there. All right, your calls and texts coming up. Mike Janetti of Spot Track just after 4 o'clock on the Bucs cap situation. We'll dive headfirst into that. But when we come back, we head to the ice. Wash, rinse, repeat. Same old story with the Lightning. We'll explain next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Attention, bourbon lovers out there. I'm one of them. If you're looking to try out a new bourbon in 2025, this has been one of my favorites. It can be one of your favorites, too. May I recommend, if you will, Chattanooga Whiskey, specifically their award-winning Chattanooga Whiskey 91. It's a Tennessee high malt version of what they do. They use 4 grains, especially three select specialty malts as well, crafted into a real smooth, distinctive taste. I love the 91. I've got that in my liquor cabinet. I have the 111 proof. That's more of a heavier, deep-bodied bourbon. That is extraordinary, as well as their bottled in bond. So check them out. Made in Chattanooga, Tennessee, from roasted and toasted grains. Chattanooga whiskey is the dark chocolate versus everything other bourbons, milk chocolate. That's the way they do it. The best sipping whiskey from Tennessee happens to be Chattanooga whiskey. So check it out. Ask for it today at your local bars and retailers. I love it. You'll love it too. Drink Chattanooga whiskey, and as always, enjoy responsibly.
WDAE Traffic Update. This report is sponsored by Audible.
A wreck near downtown Tampa on northbound 275 just before I-4 in the left-hand lane, and traffic slow from Dale Mabry. Also a crash being cleared on Bloomingdale and Kings. Also one on State Road 60 at Turkey Creek. No major problems to report on east or westbound I-4. Get traffic info around the clock by searching News Radio WFLA on iHeartRadio. I'm Randy Myers.
Tap into your well-being with Audible audiobooks, podcasts, and originals. Expand your life with expert insight and motivation for better health, habits, relationships, finance, and more. Start listening free when you sign up for a 30-day trial at audible.com.
At Rivard Buick GMC, it doesn't matter where you live, because from the comfort of your home, you can enjoy the massive new GMC discounts with upfront pricing that Rivard is known for, saving you thousands. Check out over 650 new vehicles in stock. Find one that you like, and we'll deliver it to you, whether you're 1 mile or 1,000 miles from us. you'll receive great customer service with no hassle and no pressure. That's how we got to be the number 2 GMC dealer in the country. RivardBuickGMC.com. GMC, we are professional grade.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Hey, it's Brett from PG Men's Health. Did erectile dysfunction let you down last year? Well, let's make this year your year. Our Wave technology is backed by 50 clinical studies, including research from Cambridge University. It revitalizes blood flow by repairing blood vessels. No pills, no needles, no side effects. If you're ready to end your erectile dysfunction struggles this year, call us now. You'll get a free assessment, exam, even the blood flow ultrasound completely free. This is worth hundreds of dollars. Plus, for those who call in the next 2 minutes, we're also throwing in your first treatment completely free. This is over $800 in value, but it's free to those who call in the next 2 minutes. Call 877-755-MENS. That's 877-755.
to do, and we kind of worked in the second and third period there. So, we just got to start on time, and we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, well, you're not in good shape to start out these games. Darren Radish and the Lightning. Same old story last night in Toronto. First 20 minutes of the game, yada, yada, yada. Out of position, odd man rushes. The energy isn't there. The Lightning do this all the time. And nobody seems to know why. Nobody. Welcome back. It's The Drive, 3:55 in your ride home. So they lose 5-3. And by the time they wake up, they're making a game of it. And then Toronto scores a late one late in the second period. They go on to win. And Radish actually played well. He had a goal and an assist. Nick Paul had 2 goals. So those 2 guys played pretty well. The rest of the team just, I don't know, just lollygagging the way through it. And this happens all the time. Listen to Lightning head coach John Cooper. What about it, Coop? What about the slow starts?
It's tough when you're chasing the game. So I thought that, we've too many times in the last couple of weeks here, we're basically playing a 2-period game. And, we've gotten away with it at times, but for the most part we haven't. And tonight was a 2-period game again for us. And against good teams like that, don't really have much of a chance.
100%. Against a bad team, yeah, you might be able to rebound and catch them at the end, but against a good team, Toronto's a good team, that doesn't work. So the Lightning fall to the Maple Leafs yet again. The Lightning are 0-3 against Toronto this season, and they won't see them again until early April. Now tonight, the Bolts have to forget about that and turn it around because they're playing a back-to-back on the road. They're in Montreal against Les Habitants. Will they get off to a better start tonight against the Habs? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe. Boy, some of you on the text platform, you should be yourselves. Freaking idiots. All right, 1 hour's in the books. Coming up, what does the Buccaneer cap situation look like? They have more than 20 free agents. Can they bring back Chris Godwin? Can they bring back Levante David? What about Jamel Dean? What about that contract? What about Baker Mayfield? What if the Buccaneers wanted to do a new deal with Baker Mayfield? And will they have enough left over to be players in free agency? It's a lot of questions. We'll get the answers. Mike Janetti from Spot Track will join me coming up next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Boy, the college football national championship game last night won by Ohio State. They kicked that late field goal to cover the spread. I'm sure a lot of people that had Ohio State minus the points on the Hard Rock Bet app were very happy. Those who had Notre Dame plus the points, not so much. But that's the way it goes. The good news is that we've got the championship Sunday games coming up. That means you need to get on it on the Hard Rock Bet app, Florida's only legal sports book. And the Hard Rock Bet app has all of the action for Championship Sunday. And when it comes time for the big game after that, the Hard Rock Bet app is going all out. They're rolling out over $5.9 million in bonus bets as well. You'll get big profit boosts as well for the games this weekend. You can also wager on college basketball, hockey, maybe the Lightning and the Habs tonight, MMA, and so much more. By the way, if you try it out and your first bet doesn't win, you'll get up to $100 back in bonus bets. So download it now at Google Play or the App Store or hardrock.bet, and it's a beautiful thing. And make that money, guys. Offered by the Seminole Tribe of Florida. Must be 21 plus and physically present in Florida.
Gloves are off. I'm playing hardball. It's 4th and 15, and you're looking at a full court press.
You're tuned into the voice of the Tampa Bay sports fan.
You're going to like this guy. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us.
Buckle up, because you're on the drive with TKras. Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Well, he's an outstanding player. If we can sign him back at all, I'd love to have him back here. Don't know the significance yet of how long he'll be out and how he'll recover, but we'd definitely like to have him back.
Bucs head coach Todd Bowles speaking last week on wanting to bring Chris Godwin back in the fold. Godwin, one of more than 20 free agents that the Buccaneers have going into this offseason. Good afternoon, Tampa Bay. Welcome back. 4:05 on your ride home on this wet and wild Tuesday. It is the drive with yours truly, Chris Mathis on the other side. More of your calls and texts coming up. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. So, Buccaneers first-round ouster from the playoffs. Are they going to lose Liam Cohen? What about all these free agents? What about some of these existing contracts? Can the Buccaneers get out from any of them? So many questions. That's why I solicited our good friend who's with us right now, the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network DA hotline. Learn more at cfbhn.org. Mike Janetti from SpotTrack.com, the website that covers all of these issues. And Mike is with us here on the drive. Mike, welcome back. How are you, man?
Good to be back. Doing well. Busy time for everybody here.
It sure is. All right, you heard Todd Bowles talk about Chris Godwin there. The ankle injury suffered against the Ravens. He was having a great year, Mike, before that happened. And now the ankle injury and the rehab is probably going to cloud things up a little bit, coming off that 3-year, $60 million deal. So in your opinion, what kind of contract do you think Chris Godwin is going to garner this offseason, and can the Bucs bring him back?
Well, you nailed it. He was on the right track, right? Despite the age, despite the 1B platform that Tampa Bay sort of had him on with Mike Evans, he was headed for one of the more notable names in free agency. And the more I dive into this class as a whole, not just the Tampa Bay class as a whole, he's still one of those names for me. So I'm tempted to devalue him to a point of where, a team's going to want to see him rehab and find the field. This guy has just been so consistently available when healthy as a number one option, even sitting behind Evans, as we discussed. I don't know that you can drop him too far to the line. So just mathematically speaking, this guy's still right around that $20 million per year mark, which, might sound high for everything included, but in the grand scheme of things, we're going to have wide receivers approaching $40 million a year soon. So it's going to be average WR2 pay. And I still think, like I said, that the market's going to be calling for this guy. Can Tampa Bay pay that? Absolutely. They've been doing it for 3.5 years. Why not, 2 or 3 more years, 2 of those guaranteed. I actually see this relationship continuing because they have the ability and the knowledge right now of knowing just how long this rehab's going to take, how much they're going to have to backload it a little bit. Look, there's a lot of mouths to feed. There's 22 free agents sitting on this list right now, but he's, to me, the one you're talking about first.
Without question, and I think you're right in the fact that, this goes beyond the numbers and everything else. Chris Godwin, he loves Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay loves him. He wants to stay here. He and his wife just had a child. He and Mike Evans are very close, so I think he does come back, and I think the Buccaneers do work something out. But you made an interesting point about the other free agents. T. Higgins, for example, in Cincinnati, do you think he gets out of Cincinnati and he's going to command a monstrous deal? The Patriots, with all that cap space, make a lot of sense, but what kind of contract do you think T. Higgins gets?
Yeah, you nailed it. That's the name. That's still the name at the top of the list after all these weeks and months of doing work on this stuff. And, the Patriots, there's a few other names for sure with, flush with cap space. I'd put Washington in this conversation, certainly the Bears. You're going to have a situation where it's going to be approaching at least $30 million a year for this player. And in that regard, your first question is, does he get out of Cincinnati? It's the wrong franchise to be talking about in this way because they generally don't go big. But a second tag on T. Higgins is $26 million, and that's a big cap hit, and that's not one of the cap flush teams. But it is a team that has shown that it can hold itself together with T. Higgins and with Jamar Chase as their main options. I wouldn't put it past any franchise to double tag T. Higgins this offseason, But man, is he not going to like it. So it's going to be a battle for a bunch of months if that happens.
And they have to pay Jamar Chase. You just mentioned it. And the kind of year that he just had, he just won the Triple Crown. He wants to get more money than Justin Jefferson, who makes $35 million a year. So are we talking about Jamar Chase at $40 million? There's no way they could pay T. Higgins, right?
No way. I'm not naive enough to think that everything's going to come together for multiple seasons. But even if you go and do a Jamar Chase deal, and it's going to be past the Jefferson deal. It was already headed in that direction, and then certainly with what he did on the field in 2024 has supplanted that. It's going to be the biggest wide receiver contract ever. But from a salary cap perspective, as you probably know, year one of these new deals is always nice and fresh and low because of the signing bonus structure that teams build in. So you could put a nice low number in for Jamar Chase on the cap and a nice high franchise tag in for T. Higgins and make it work for one more season. But we're leaving the cash part of this out, and that's certainly the problem that Cincinnati has had over the years. And you're talking upwards of $60 to $80 million in year one for those two players.
Well, and that ownership, and you know this too, Mike, they have been notoriously frugal over the course of many, many years, so that's an issue as well. Mike Janetti from SpotTrack.com is with me here on The Drive. So let's get back to the Bucs. From your estimation, and there are a lot of numbers out there, how much cap space do you think the Buccaneers will have to play with?
Yeah, we've made some adjustments this week. Kind of added in some bonuses and things like that. And as we stand right now, it's about $24 million. So, not great, not terrible. There's a lot worse. There's a lot better right now. But there's certainly plenty of fluidity that comes with that. And, that starts with a couple players that will hit the dead cap because of voided contracts, as has been the case in Tampa Bay for the past 3-4 seasons. But, you're right around that $20 to $25 million mark right now, and you're probably going to need to almost double that to really make the impact with the free agent list that you have going forward here.
And there are ways to create more room. They can restructure deals. So who are some guys, maybe Antoine Winfield Jr., maybe his contract? Can the Buccaneers restructure some of these deals, in your opinion?
Yeah, there's a couple of real high ones up there in terms of, salary and the signing bonus conversions. Baker Mayfield, obviously the big one. Tristan Wirfs with his new contract has a big bloated base salary. Mike Evans, and then Winfield, as you mentioned. You just take on those four, and you're already in a pretty decent shape to start to bring back some people and hit the free agent market with some room. So they've set themselves up nicely in that regard with shorter deals that they can maneuver with some void years as they've done in the past. This is one of those teams I'm not really worried about financially speaking. It's more of the decisions, right? It's more of the names, which ones stay, which ones go. It's just one of the bigger lists we have this offseason, and certainly this is a team that needs the same contention, all things considered.
Mike Janetti of Spot Track is with me. So let's talk about Baker, because he just had a great year. He's got 2 years left on his deal, $30 million next year and $40 million the year after that, right? So do you think the Buccaneers maybe go to him and talk about a new contract in a way to maybe alleviate some more cap space?
Yeah, they're going to have to do something because, this guy just went basically top 5 in all the major metrics and sort of even still remains underrated somehow. He's been that kind of stealthy, and I don't think it's going away. They're going to risk here losing the offensive coordinator maybe, and there may be some systematic changes to go with that. But from a contract standpoint, this was the problem they were hoping and not hoping they were going to have this offseason, which is he's going to be too good to stay in this contract, but man, he's good, and he's going to be our guy going forward. The problem is he already took the value deal. So when you start talking about, an actual real start over contract, it's going to be really hard not to start with 50, and approach 60 because of him still being 29 years old, because of where this market's headed. And, we're going to have a couple more big-time contracts this offseason to tack on to the top here. So it's probably a situation where we don't have to start fresh this offseason. We can pull some money out of 2026. That's not guaranteed anyway. Bring it into 2025, kind of Band-Aid the process to make him happy. He's got the incentives to tack on after 2025 when some other things start to clear up a little bit. We'll talk about that real big 4-year extension and go from there.
I want to ask you about another contract. That's Jamel Dean. He's in the midst of a 4-year, $52 million deal. He wasn't on the field a lot, to the frustration of a lot of Buccaneer fans and maybe some coaches too. So if the Buccaneers decided to move on from him, I think they would like to maybe trade him or cut him. But what are the ramifications in terms of the cap?
Yeah, the guaranteed money's actually completely fallen off of this contract now heading into year 3. So to trade or to cut this player even early without the post June 1st is almost $8.5 million saved. So I would expect, because of everything you framed there, that's one of the moves they make for cap purposes. And even if it means, we're going to try to bring him back on something different, it just doesn't seem like the reliability, consistency is matching this number right now, and I'd take those cap savings in March.
Interesting. All right, so $8.5 million if they move on from him. They have a lot of guys they want to bring back. We talked about Chris Godwin. Levante David is another guy, on a year-to-year basis, a 34-year-old guy, still played pretty well. Maybe not the player he once was, Mike. So what would a Levante contract look like? Because last year, I think the Bucs were going to bring him back. Then all of a sudden, the 49ers showed some interest, and the Buccaneers had to pay him more, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think it was probably in the $4 to $5 million mark, and then it got up to $7.5 million pretty quickly. He's still that kind of player, right? I mean, he's not. He hasn't aged out of production to the point of where the math doesn't keep up with him. He's still probably a $6 to $6.5 million player, even when you bring age into it. So, if there's not that other team out there bidding him up, you can probably bring him back on 1 for $5 with a bunch of incentives that Tampa Bay loves to build into these things. But if not, you might have to just offer the exact same contract he played out last year, and use the void years and keep the salary cap low. But I think if he wants to return to football, it makes absolutely no sense not to have him back in Tampa Bay in 2025.
And I think he plays for the Bucs or he retires. I think those are the two options.
That's right.
I don't think he plays for anybody else. So can the Buccaneers, in a perfect world, get into a place, Mike, where bring back Godwin, they'll bring back Levante. Those are the two big names. There are some others, too. Ben Bredeson's probably going to want more money because he played well. He made $3 million last year. Do you see the Buccaneers getting to a point where, they could be players in free agency? Are they going to have enough cap space in order to do that?
Yeah, when you've got 4 or 5 contracts that you can convert for cap purposes, and then maybe there's 1 or 2 notable cap casualties like we're discussing here, that's upwards of 25 to 30 million freed up without really doing too much, right? And then, if we do a Baker extension and some other things that we've referenced here today, you can become at least platable, right? You can maybe 1 max contract, maybe 2 B contracts, and that's really all this team kind of needs to stay in contention, in my opinion, because the core really has been established, and there's been a bunch of draft picks that have hit nicely for value purposes. So I'd say, not uber aggressive players, but certainly players, right? Buyers in most breaths here. Certainly that tier below the Patriots and the Commanders that are, the big cap space spenders this offseason.
Right. I mean, look, they're not going to be in that category, but if they can get into a position, look, they're a contender, so maybe they can attract one of these veterans who might be chasing a ring. Now, edge rusher is obviously a position of need for the Buccaneers, so are there any guys out there that could be in their price range, in your opinion?
Yeah, look, this is a position, especially for free agent purposes, that has really dropped in value over the past couple of years, right? We've seen some guys take some show-me deals, like a Chase Young, and certainly the Clowney situation over the years. If you want to bring, somebody a little older that might be more cost-effective, guys like Dante Fowler Jr., DeMarcus Lawrence, I have a feeling are going to change teams because of their current situations. That's probably the neighborhood that this team is looking for, in addition to certainly a draft pick. But, something in the $5 to $6 million mark on maybe a 1 or 2 year deal should fit the bill. And we've seen 3 or 4 really big players come in and make huge impacts on 1 year deals in that regard. So I have a feeling that's probably in the neighborhood of where Tampa Bay is going to be living. And that's certainly a position of free agency you can go and get done.
What about a guy like Marcus Davenport? I know he's hurt all the time, but he kind of fits into that range, 28 years old, $6.5 million, somewhere in that range.
Exactly. That's exactly the same type of player we're talking about here, who is just looking for a 1 year prove-it deal and is going to be cost-effective for you.
All right, so Mike Vrabel takes over the Patriots. I thought that was the best job available because you got Drake May, you got all this cap space, so you have the number 4 overall pick, and we've seen it, Mike. We've seen teams that 1 year turnarounds. Houston Texans, they get Stroud, 1 year turnaround. The Commanders just did it, 4-13 and 12-5. Might we look at the Patriots next year making a similar type of jump, maybe?
I don't know why not. It's not like this division in the AFC East is an absolute behemoth, right? Buffalo's going to be Buffalo, but, the Jets seem to be sliding backwards, not forwards, and Miami's sort of stuck in mud here. So it's not going to take much to compete, divisionally speaking, and that helps from a schedule standpoint to get yourself into wild card contention. They seem to have everything in place right now. There's some offensive line pieces that look good. The defense has been good for 2 or 3 years, and they can be as aggressive as they want to be here, both in terms of the high draft picks, top 100 draft picks, and with that $125 million of cap space to work with as well. So it may not be the most attractive spot, right? I do think what Jaden Daniels is doing in Washington is going to make Washington the most attractive spot when you put it all together. But that Patriots situation should be top 3, no question, this March.
And what about the NFC South as a whole? The Buccaneers right there at the top. They won the last 4 division titles. What about Atlanta, New Orleans, Carolina? Are any of these teams, we know New Orleans is upside down on the cap, right? I mean, they're in salary cap hell, aren't they?
Always. But to be honest, I've got them at minus 50 here right now. This feels like cheating for them right now. They're generally in the minus 100, minus 90 neighborhood. So it does feel like they have sort of driven that back a little bit. That doesn't mean they're in any better shape. There's a lot of big decisions. There are cap casualties. There's some injury retirements happening on that roster, and they don't even have a coach yet. So, it's thumbs down on that situation for now. Similar in Atlanta to some degree, only because of the Cousins situation. They're going to have to release Cousins. That's going to put them behind the 8 ball a little bit in terms of the financials this offseason. But obviously the Penix Jr. stuff and some of those young players who have started to risen up a little bit here will make them attractive, but will it be attractive enough to get the big defensive players they need to really become formidable in this division? I don't think so just yet.
And what about Carolina? Where do they stand?
Look, they spent a heck of a lot of money last offseason, the most money in terms of total value contracts in the league. So you knew something was going to turn around late in the season. It just had to. Something had to come together. And when Bryce Young started to figure things out, you know that they're trending in the right direction. Will they double up, right? Will they go another big offseason? They have the ability to do it if they convert a bunch of these contracts they just signed. I'm not sure they're ready to do that. And I have a feeling it's going to be somewhat of a slowdown year. Could be a 500 team, but probably not much more than that based on what they've done. It just seems like you're probably not going to throw too much salt on this wound just yet until you know exactly what you have with Bryce Young.
Well, they spent $150 million last year in 2 guards, which was very interesting. But hey, you want to go play for Carolina, you got to overspend, right, in order for free agents to want to go there.
That's exactly right. You've got to take the pain early, and then you can sort of earn your way into some lightning in a bottle situations. That's right.
Very informative. Spottrack.com, guys. Check it out. Mike Janetti, he's the expert. Awesome website. Check it out. Mike, always appreciate the knowledge and the insight. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk soon.
You bet. My pleasure.
You got it. That's Mike Janetti. Great stuff there. All right, so he laid it out. At some point, Baker Mayfield is going to say, okay, I just had 2 really good years. This last year I just had in 2024, I was the only quarterback in the NFL. He was the only guy that placed in the top 3 in passing yards, completion percentage, touchdown passes. That dude is going to want more than $30 million a year. Right now, it's $55 to $60 million a year. It'll be interesting to see how the Buccaneers handle that situation, because he's due to make $30 million in 25 and $40 million in 26. I think if you're the Buccaneers, you got to do the smart thing. This is your franchise quarterback. He's 29 going on 30. And, knock on wood, this is your guy for the next 7 or 8 years. If he takes care of himself, which I no doubt he will. Now, he does play with reckless abandon. He wants to run people over. He ran over Bobby Wagner in that playoff game, which he gives you that little oomph. But again, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he plays a lot bigger than his size. You just want him to take care of himself. Self-preservation, obviously, should be the number one priority, but he should be good for another 7 or 8 years. And the Buccaneers are going to have to adjust his contract at some point. I don't know if they'll do it now, but certainly in the next year, they have pressing needs. They have more than 20 free agents. Chris Godwin and Levante David right there at the top. And then you've got Maybe Ben Bredesen right there. He had a good year. He's going to want to raise. Anthony Nelson, edge player. He's probably going to want a little bit more. Maybe if somebody else out there in free agency offers him starters money, he'll probably leave. And he made the biggest play of their season, honestly, in Carolina. So there are some things that the Bucs can do. They can restructure a few deals. The Baker thing, they can adjust his contract perhaps. And you heard him say about Jamel Dean. They can move off of him and save $8.5 million. And I think that's something that the Buccaneers should seriously consider. Maybe if you move off him, maybe you go shopping at free agency for a corner. There are a couple of guys. It's going to cost a lot of money. Or maybe you draft a guy in the first or second round. You know, in the draft coming up, it's going to be defensive-centric, right? It should be. And it has to be. So very interesting conversation there with Mike. He's awesome. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. A lot of people throwing out names. I'm a Charger fan. Maybe Joey Bosa if he's released. We'll see. Khalil Mack, free agent. He's getting up there in years. How much money is he going to want? But I think a guy like Marcus Davenport, who got hurt again this year, formerly of the Saints, now with the Lions. Maybe he's a guy in a one-year prove-it deal at 28 years old. That's the kind of guy I'm looking for. I know everyone wants a big name, but you got to be realistic as to who you can get, who's gettable at this point. Because I hear from fans all the time, you think they could get T.J. Watt? I'll hang up and listen. Come on. Myles Garrett, a couple of weeks ago, we had this guy. Hey, let's go get Myles Garrett. Come on, man. Your calls and texts are coming up. Also on the way. Oh, we got a very, very interesting news coming about on the college side, on the NFL side. We do have the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame announcement, too. We're going to get into that in a matter of moments. But when we come back to the Bucs, because there is some breaking developments on Liam Cohen. That and more NFL news. We're going to give that to you coming up next. Hang on.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
On this drive home, it's a wet and wild Tuesday. Be careful out there on the roadways. Injury accidents can happen. And yes, a lot of bad drivers, too, are out there as well. So exercise caution. And if you or someone you love happens to be injured in an auto accident or product liability, medical malpractice, Social Security disability, you got to call on my guys over at Catania and Catania, the personal injury law firm that's been doing their thing here in Tampa Bay for the last 30 years. They don't get paid unless you get paid, and they've been getting a lot of money for their clients. Almost $1 billion has been recovered by my guys for injury victims just like you. So protect your right to protecting mine. When I had my mishap, again, it was somebody else's fault. One or two of you knuckleheads on the text platform had to straighten somebody out. You know, you don't joke about things like that where, you know, people are injured, people are victimized. But, you know, some people out there have no class, and you know who you are. But these are the guys you need to call because they will protect your right to protecting mine. I trust them, so should you. You get a free evaluation of your case at 813-222-8545. That's 813-222-8545.
Shift into high gear for the Drive with TKras, courtesy of Moss Nissan, only on WDAE.
It's wet, it's wild on a Tuesday. We've got Fill in the Blank coming up a little bit later on. It is The Drive right here on WDAE. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. Great stuff already today. John Ledgard, awesome. Broke down the NFL, the playoff matchups. He talked about Liam Cohen. You just heard from Mike Janetti from Spot Track about where the Buccaneers stand in terms of the salary cap. Really interesting stuff. I'm running into people online. I can't listen to you anymore because I'm on a different schedule. You can always download the iHeartRadio app. It's new and improved. Commercial-free podcasts of this show are available through the iHeartRadio app, or you can go online, 953wda.com. You click on The Drive, and any segment you may have missed, any interview or full shows are on there. It's right there. Beautiful. All right, what's not beautiful is the fact that the Buccaneers could lose Liam Cohen. According to Rick Stroud, our guy at TampaBay.com, we know that Liam Cohen has a second interview. We talked about that yesterday. He's going up to Jacksonville tomorrow for a second interview, an in-person interview. He is one of 3 finalists that we know of. But it should be pointed out that he's the only offensive guy that we know that is getting a second interview. The other 2 finalists are defensive guys. Patrick Graham, the Raiders defensive coordinator, is also getting a second interview. And Robert Saleh, the former Jets head coach, he was a defensive guy, was Niners defensive coordinator before he got the Jets job. Robert Saleh is also a finalist. Now, I don't know what Jacksonville is thinking. I would think in an offensive league, you just paid Trevor Lawrence $55 million a year, and he has regressed since his rookie year. Maybe they're thinking, let's go get an offensive guy. Let's go with the growing trend around the NFL and get an offensive guy. And if that is exactly what they're thinking, then I think Liam Cohen goes to the front of the line. Robert Saleh, solid coach, but a defensive coach. Now, if they want somebody with prior head coach experience, then Robert Saleh would have a leg up. But if they want an innovative offensive mind to turn around Trevor Lawrence, then Liam Cohen, I think, is the front runner for the Jaguars job. Now, anytime you go in for a second interview, that means you're close. That means they like you like them, you're real close. Aaron Glenn just went in for a second interview with the Jets, and there are reports that deal may be done very soon, maybe by the end of the show. So we'll keep an eye on that. The Lions obviously already lost their other coordinator, Ben Johnson. He went to the Bears. He went across the street. And, of course, he got this hero's welcome when he walked into Hallis Hall. You got all these Bears employees. There's a video circulating along the social media platforms. Hey, this is where I wanted to be. The Bears. Forget about where I was before. This is where I wanted to be. I don't think too many Lions fans, I don't think Nick Wise is going to be liking that. Hey, this is where I wanted to be. Thank you very much.
Listen, thank you so much. My family and I, we are beyond excited. This is exactly where we wanted to be. This is exactly where we wanted to be. This is going to be a challenge. I am well aware of that.
Are you professional or not?
So there you have it. Ben Johnson being greeted by Bears fans inside Hallis Hall. 888-546-4620. Let's go to Charlie in Tampa. Charles, what's going on out there?
My man, what's up, TKras and the real CM Punk fellas? I hope you're having a great day today. It sounds like you are. Hey, so here's the deal. I don't think the Bucs, and I've actually become a really big Bucs fan. I'm obviously Jets at heart, but I love the Bucs now. I'm supporting them. I'm actually contemplating even getting season tickets because my Jets come here next season. I just want to know I'm set for the season and especially that game. But anyway, I think we should be very cautious about signing Levante David, even Khalil Mack. I really think we should be focusing a lot on developing the players that we had this year, because we brought them in and drafted them either last year or the year before for a reason, and not so much looking to move off of them because we didn't have the best year defensively, and drafting again and staying younger and nimble and flexible. I hate paying these 34 and 35-year-old guys that are has-beens and taking flyers on them in football because it doesn't allow you that flexibility you need from year to year. I don't think we're like, everyone's like, oh, we don't need to work on the offense. We're a top 3 offense. No, we're not a top 3 offense. We're like a top 7 offense. Let's get real. We did it for 1 year, and we're not going to have Liam Cohen most likely. So I think we need to like slow it down and just kind of like keep building and not go all in for next year to try to win the Super Bowl and mortgage the future. What do you think, Tommy?
Well, here's what I'll tell you, Charlie, and I appreciate the call. And, you know, I talk with Jason Light frequently, and I can tell you this about Jason. You know, other free agents, and look, they've had hit or miss opportunities with guys over the years. Jason Light and the Buccaneers want to concentrate on their own guys first. So Chris Godwin and Levante David are going to be their priorities. I don't see the Buccaneers being huge players in free agency the way some fans want them to be. They don't have a whole lot of cap space now. You just heard Mike Janetti break it down. They could acquire more cap space by maybe moving on from Jamel Dean, restructuring a few deals. Yes, they can add more cap space, but they want to take care of their own guys first. And then maybe they'll dabble in free agency. And look, here's the positive, okay, Bucs fans. The Buccaneers have become a destination for free agents. There are going to be veteran guys out there that are looking at the Bucs, looking at what they've done over the last 4 years. They've won 4 straight division titles. They got Baker Mayfield. They've got a stud offense. I disagree with you, Charlie. They are a top 3, top 5 offense now in this league. The numbers bore it out. Passing, running. This is a top 5 offense in the NFL. If they lose Liam Cohen, yes, they're going to take a step back, but there's still great talent on offense. And if they have to look for another offensive coordinator, trust me, there's going to be qualified candidates lining up around the block. All the way down MLK Jr., down Lois, leading to the Advent Health Training Center. There will be a line around the block to audition or to, you know, put their hat in the ring, so to speak, to be the next offensive coordinator. But this is going to be a destination. Sound ownership, tremendous quarterback, great offense. They make the playoffs every year, no state income tax. I think the Buccaneers have become a destination for free agents. So keep an eye on that when you go into free agency too. They're gonna have people calling them. Now, for many, many years, the Buccaneers had to overpay like Carolina did last year to get people to come play for them and work for them. I think the tide has changed. I think the culture has changed now. Whereas the Buccaneers are the team that a lot of people and a lot of organizations are trying to model their programs after. And veteran free agents are going to be looking at the Buccaneers like, okay, you know what? I could be a difference maker for them. They already have a great locker room, great culture, tremendous quarterback, great offense. That's a team I'd like to play for. Let's go to Brian up in Rochester, New York. What's happening up in Rochester? How cold is it up there?
Oh, man, TKras, it's 10 degrees right now. It was -2 this morning.
Oh,
I need to move to Tampa, man. I need to move down where you guys are.
I don't know.
I'm nearing retirement, man. A couple more years.
Well, what are you waiting for? Get down here. Although it's snowing in the Panhandle here today.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen often.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It happens every day up here for about 6 months out of the year, TKras and stuff.
Oh, boy.
Hey, listen, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and don't get me wrong, I love Chris Godwin. I want to see Chris Godwin come back. I love everything he brings to the team. But, and this may be more of a question than it is an opinion, with the development of Jalen McMillan, and I hope that development continues, do you feel like the Bucs could move on without Godwin, maybe bring in like another, number 2B type receiver that would be cost less, and dedicate some of the money you're going to spend on Godwin to the defense? Because, man, I'm telling you, our offense is great, and we did it without Godwin for a good part of the season. Our defense was obviously our Achilles heel, and, I know, we're not going to be huge players in free agency, but there's guys to be had on the defensive side of the ball that we really could use some upgrades on, and I'm not sure wide receiver is a priority for the Bucs.
And I understand where you're coming from, Brian, and I appreciate the call. Stay warm up there. Chris Godwin means a lot to that building. He means a lot to this community. Guys love him. The organization loves him, and he loves the organization. I bet you he's back. I don't know what the contract is going to look like, but if there's a guy who's going to give a team maybe like a hometown discount, I think Chris Godwin would do that. And again, everything that I just mentioned, the culture, winning, no state income tax, all that works in the Bucs' favor. And I don't think Chris Godwin wants to go anywhere. I think he's back in 2025 and beyond. 888-546-4620, text at 82945. More of your calls and texts coming up. Fill in the blank at 5:30 as we'll take you up until 7 o'clock. On the way back, there is hockey to talk about tonight. What happened last night to the Lightning? Same old story. Details next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Guys, be careful out there. Injury accidents do happen. It happened to me. When it happened to me, and I certainly wasn't at fault, I got on the phone. I called my guys over at Catania, so they're on the case. The personal injury law firm that's been at it for more than 3 decades. They don't get paid unless you get paid. Almost $1 billion has been successfully recovered by my guys for injury victims just like you. So protect your rights and protecting mine. Catania is where it's at. They're experienced. They're successful. They also show a great deal of compassion. They'll check in with me from time to time. They've got my back. They'll have your back as well. Give them a call. Tell them I sent you. 813-222-8545. That's 813-222-8545. Or get a free evaluation of your case online at Catania.
So I thought that, we've too many times in the last couple of weeks here, we're basically playing a two-period game. And, we've gotten away with it at times, but for the most part we haven't. And tonight was a two-period game again for us. And against good teams like that, don't really have much of a chance.
Can't have it. John Cooper and the Lightning got off to another slow start. Stop me if you've heard this before. Lightning get off to a slow start, and they cannot recover.
Keep it going, Tom. Keep it going.
Wash, rinse, repeat, Chris Mathis. Because last night the same thing happened. Slow start up in Toronto. Apparently nobody wanted to shoot the puck. They fell behind. And by the time they recovered, it's too late. Maple Leafs won 5-3. And that's the other thing. I mean, your shooters, your scorers, your best players, you got to shoot the puck. Jake Gensel played more than 20 minutes. He had one shot. Brandon Hagel played almost 23 minutes. He had one shot on goal. Kucherov had 5 shots, which is great. Nick Paul scored twice. He shot it 5 times. You can't score if you don't shoot. Braden Point, leader in goals, 1 shot. Can't happen. Now tonight, unfortunately, they got another game, back-to-back. They're in Montreal against Les Habitants. I don't know what kind of energy level we're going to see coming out of the gate. It's so funny because this happened so many times, yet the players know, and they have no idea, they claim, as to why it happens. Here is Lightning defenseman Darren Radish after the game on the slow starts.
I think we just beat ourselves in the first. I gave up a few breakaways and a few odd mans, and we just kind of went back to what we know how to do, and kind of worked in the second and third period there. So, we just got to start on time, and we'll be in good shape.
Let's hope so. And Radish, he actually had a good game too, a goal and an assist. But these slow starts, especially against good teams. Toronto, good team. Real good team. You're not going to be able to get away with it. The Lightning did have Johansson in net last night because of the back-to-back thing, and Vasilevsky probably will be going tonight. They're saving him for Montreal, who has 50 points. Toronto leading the Atlantic at 62 points, followed by Florida, 57. Now the Lightning at 53. But you just got to bring the energy, bring the oomph, and more importantly, you got to shoot the puck. There's just too much passing happening early in that first period. And then all of a sudden you get behind the 8 ball. You might be able to get away with it against a team like, I don't know, Detroit or Buffalo, but not Toronto. It's not going to work. 888-546-4620. Lots of texts. JR, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. Good point. Sean from the 727, and I knew we were going to get this question, Chris Mathis. Once we found out Tyreek Hill was driving up here for whatever reason, fans start to get excited thinking that the Buccaneers are about to get Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, we saw the video, too, of him at the Brandon Mall.
Yeah, you showed it to me.
Yeah, he was walking around. Man, that's just how fans think. I saw reported allegations that maybe he would get traded. Was it to the Patriots? Did you see that rumor?
I did. Jeremy Fowler had the report that the Patriots are interested in trading for Tyreek Hill. Again, you're talking about division rivals, Dolphins and the Patriots. Out. So he's got 2 years left on that contract. He's a head case. The Bucs have no interest in that guy. None. I can safely tell you that right now. For you Buccaneer fans out there, you might be a little fuzzy or whatever. The Bucs have no interest in Tyreek Hill. None. Why? You have Mike Evans. Jalen McMillan came on like gangbusters, 7 touchdowns in the last 5 regular season games. They're going to re-sign Chris Godwin, in my opinion. I don't know why fans come up with this. You're not playing fantasy football. You got to start 3 receivers. which Liam Cohen, if he's still the OC, would like to do ideally. But there's no interest there. So let's cut that out. All right, 2 down, 2 to go, as we say in the trade. It's been an eventful show so far. More of your calls and texts coming up on the other side. Sean, I'll get to you as well. Hang in there. 888-546-4620. Also coming up on the other side, I've heard this narrative for about 12 to 18 hours, and I'm sick of it. You're going to hear the narrative, and I'm going to debunk it coming up next involving college football. This is The Drive.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Drive, and it is presented by our guys over at Moss Nissan, where their goal is always never lose your business over price. TKras here, Chris Mathis here as well. He has experienced the Moss effect, and if you're looking for a new or pre-owned vehicle, you got to go over to Moss Nissan. Sales department is awesome, very friendly, great deals happening. Plus, if you've got holiday hangovers or credit card debt, no problem. Moss Nissan has the cure. Right, Chris?
That they do, Tom. By the way, I need to schedule a new appointment to go get my routine checkup sometime early next week. But no money down. Also, no payments are due until the spring right now.
Well, you definitely need a checkup. It has nothing to do with your car.
Come on.
Well, come on.
If I'm going to get a checkup, I'll let it be at Moss Nissan.
Well, you got that right. And with every purchase, you get Moss Care, which is what I have. I bought my last 2 vehicles over at Moss Nissan. What is Moss Care? That means unlimited oil changes and tire rotations for as long as you own the vehicle. It's a beautiful thing.
No doubt about it, Tom. You're going to get all of that and so much more, including being able to select from the largest Nissan inventory right here in Tampa Bay.
Right you are, Chris Mathis. They've got 3 convenient locations, so check them out. Tampa, Newport Richie, or up in Brooksville. Or you can hit them up online at mossnissan.com. That's Moss Nissan.
Off. I'm playing hardball. It's 4th and 15, and you're looking at a full court press.
You're tuned into the voice of the Tampa Bay sports fan.
You're gonna like this guy. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us.
Buckle up, because you're on the drive with TKras. Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
It was a go ball on the outside with a couple options. If they played one-on-one on the outside, we were going to take our shot. They did a great job of game planning us, and Will made a huge throw, and Jeremiah made a huge catch to seal the game.
Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes are your national champs. He talked about that one bomb from Will Howard to Jeremiah Smith to seal the deal, and then they kicked the field goal, which won a lot of people some money. If you had Ohio State minus the points, they covered on that last field goal. Some people had Notre Dame plus the points. Not so much. But Ohio State are the national champs. The Big Ten has won the last 2 national championships. So does that mean the Big Ten are at the top of the mountain and the SEC is something of the past? Give me a break. Welcome back. Good afternoon, Tampa Bay. 5:06 on your ride home. If you're just getting in your car, I know it's cold and rainy and miserable out. Crank up the heat. Put on the heat. I don't know. Do you guys have the heated chair feature in your car? Because it comes in beautifully on a day like this. Trust me, I've got that on my Nissan. It is awesome. On a day like this, especially, my neck and my shoulder issues, I put on the heated seat. On a day like this, man, it is beautiful to drive.
And you know what else, Tom? That is the best way of using it. But also, if you have pizza and you're driving with a pizza box and you're trying to keep the pizza hot or try to keep your food hot, boom, it works.
A lovely cheese pizza just for me, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Oh, Kevin McAllister.
Yes, sir, yeah.
I got that reference. How about that? Boom.
Yeah, well, that's your favorite movie.
It is.
Like your favorite movie. Favorite movie is Home Alone, isn't it?
I think, yeah, it's definitely top 2 or 3.
Wow, not just Christmas movies.
Not just Christmas movie.
Yeah, I get it. Boy, oh boy. All I kept seeing last night, Ohio State wins. And look, good for them. Good for Ryan Day. Catastrophic loss to Michigan. His job was on the line. Redemption for him. He bounced back. His job was on the line against Tennessee. Beat them. And then he took out number 1 Oregon. Beat them by 20. Got by Texas. And then last night, Notre Dame gets the ball first. Goes on this epic drive of almost 10 minutes to begin the game. Riley Leonard runs it in for a touchdown. What was that, like a 19-play drive? It was something ridiculous along those lines.
Yeah, I think it was, 18? Was it 75 yards?
Yeah, it was crazy. So they go on this incredible drive, this marathon drive. Riley Leonard's puking his brains out on the sidelines after the drive. I saw that. I'm like, wow, that was a great drive. And then now after the fact, it's like, okay, they peaked on that drive. They gave it all they had on that one drive, and then that was it after that. Ohio State and their massive talent advantage took over. Jeremiah Smith caught the touchdown to tie the game, and then he caught the bomb, the 56-yarder later on. What an incredible talent that guy is. And Ohio State's going to lose a lot of guys to the NFL. They are stacked in terms of talent. That's not one of them. He's coming back next year. Because if he was draft eligible, he might be the first or second player taken, because there is no transformative type of quarterback available. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders are the top 2 quarterbacks available. Meh. It's a meh type of quarterback draft. So anytime that's the case, then an incredible transformative type of talent like Jeremiah Smith, he would probably go number 1 overall if he were eligible for this draft. He's not, because he's got a lot of Julio Jones. He's got a lot of Jamar Chase in him. Just an incredible player, bigger than Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase just won the Triple Crown in receiving, and now the Bengals are going to have to pay him as frugal as they are. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. But kudos to Ohio State and Ryan Day. He was on the chopping block until he wasn't. Now he's won the national championship. He certainly had the best team, man for man. They had the most talent. And you'll see why come draft time, how many Ohio State Buckeyes get drafted, more than a dozen, easily. But this other narrative came out late last night on the major networks, and then this morning, all over radio, all over TV, the SEC is done. The Big Ten now is the ruler of the college football universe. Now, they've won the last 2 national championships, but let's pump the brake on the Big Ten rules all type of business, because that's garbage as far as I'm concerned. Michigan won 2 years ago. Guess what? Jim Harbaugh's not even there anymore. Let's see how long it takes for them to win again. And look, Ryan Day is Ryan Day. He had the best team, man for man. But I don't want to hear this talk about how the Big Ten now has supplanted the SEC as the best conference in college football. Let's slow down on that. The odds are to win next year's national championship, by the way, they're out. And Ohio State is right up there. They're going to lose a lot of players, including their quarterback. Jeremiah Smith does return, and they'll reload. They got a lot of money through NIL. I get it. So they should be back in the mix. But according to the ESPN Bet app, Texas. Where does Texas play, Chris Mathis?
SEC country, baby.
Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up. Texas is the favorite. Then Ohio State. Then who's next after that? The Georgia Bulldogs. Where does Georgia play, Mr. Blairsville, the mayor of Blairsville, Georgia?
They are also in the SEC.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. And then you got Oregon and Penn State. Come on, give me a break. That'll be the day where Penn State wins a national championship. Alabama's on the list. Notre Dame's on the list. They're an independent. Guess who else is on the list? Tennessee, LSU after that, Ole Miss, South Carolina. And I would say, because DJ Lagway comes back, Florida might be a team that you may have to reckon with. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 7 SEC teams on this list, including the favorite, Texas. So don't give me this narrative that the Big Ten, all of a sudden the Big Ten is way better than the SEC. That's false. That's fake news. Because if you look deeper into the Big Ten, yes, Oregon is there, which is fantastic. That's great. They got pummeled in the tournament by Ohio State. But Penn State doesn't win very many big games. I mean, who did they beat in the playoffs? SMU, Boise State, who didn't deserve a bye. Come on. And then you look deeper. Indiana. Everybody loved Indiana. Wow, Indiana. What a great team. Outstanding team. The Indiana Hoosiers, usually a basketball school. Look, they had a good year, but you mean to tell me, are they really a top 7, top 8 team in all of college football? Did you see their schedule too, by the way? The Indiana Hoosiers, they won 11-2. Respectable. One and done, though, in the playoffs when they played a real team in Notre Dame. And then did you see their schedule? Western Illinois, Charlotte, Maryland, Nebraska. When they played a real team, Ohio State, they got bludgeoned. And then they turn around. They beat Purdue 66-0. Yeah, baby. Indiana was overrated. Let's be honest. They're about 6 or 7 teams in the SEC that would have beaten them. Give me a break. So let's stop with the Big Ten nonsense that they're all high and mighty now and the SEC is dead and buried. Because I've been hearing that for the last 18 hours and I'm sick of it. You'll see next year. And then we'll find out where we're at in 12 months. Let's go to phones, 888-546-4620. Fill in the blank coming up at 5:30. We're on until 7 o'clock. Sean is in Lutz. He's been patiently waiting. Sean, what's happening, brother?
Hey, TKras. Just want to say real quick, Ryan Day's head will be back on the chopping block if he loses to Michigan again next year.
Yeah. You're probably right.
Michigan is it. As I've mentioned to you before, I worked for the Capitals for 5 years for Abe Poland. And Well, let me tell you one thing that I think is affecting the Lightning right now that's kind of below the surface. And that is, I think it was last year or the year before, they had the most amount of guys with guaranteed contracts. They couldn't trade them. And that really has hurt us. And I also believe we've got some guys now, I'm not sure we would want to trade them, but we've got to offset so much of that money with guys that aren't quite on the same level, the better, more expensive guys. I also, and I'm not an expert on this, but Vassy just isn't moving as well. It almost looks like he's got an injury, but I'll hang up and listen to you, my friend.
Well, thank you, Sean. And look, I think Vassy's got a lot of miles on him. And I think the Lightning are probably doing the right thing by him. He never plays back-to-back, and he didn't play last night. Johansson was in net. Vassy will probably be in net tonight when they're up in Montreal. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully they can get off to a better start. That's the problem that nobody seems to have an answer for. These slow starts by the Lightning, and it's been kind of consistent. And last night they were slow out of the gate. They were giving up a lot of odd man rushes, and they weren't shooting the puck. It's like, okay, after 20 minutes, they're like, okay, we're ready. Against good teams, as Coop said last night, that's probably not going to fly. Rick is in Tampa. Rick, what's going on out there?
Hey, TKras. So this is off subject really quick. How you're talking about the seat warmers, I was just telling Chris while I was on hold, I literally am using that right now because of how cold it is outside, but I also have a pizza on the side of me with that warmer on right now, so it definitely is clutch. You guys are not lying, it's clutch.
Oh, it is clutch, man. What kind of pizza you got?
It's like triple pepperoni and cheese pizza for the kiddos at home. So
nice.
Wife sent me out to go get it, man. It's Marco's. Hey, man, buy one, get on Marco's. Free plug. Sorry, guys. Anyways, this is off subject compared to what you were talking about with Lightning and college football. I was going to ask you about the Bucs. If there's on offensive defensive side, what would you do, like free agency wise? Who would you feel like we should sign on both sides of the ball? And out of our free agents in house, who would you let go and replace them with? And also with the draft as well. Stay warm, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Well, you too, Rick, and enjoy that triple pepperoni pizza for you and the family. That's sounds pretty damn good right about now, Chris Mathis. I'm just saying. Pepperoni pizza, heated seats. Ooh, nice, warm, fuzzy feeling. I think Jason Light, Rick, will take care of his own first. And in case you missed the conversation we had, Mike Janetti from Spot Track, he was awesome. And we mentioned a couple of free agents that the Buccaneers could be interested in. At 6:05, we're going to run that back. And Mike Janetti gave you a glimpse as to what the cap situation looks like for the Buccaneers now, what they can do in order to free up more cap space, and who might they target. Now, I looked at the free agent list, and look, I get it, fans. You just want the very best. You see big names, and those are the names that you gravitate towards. Like you see a guy like Khalil Mack, for instance. And a lot of fans, and I've gotten this already, Khalil Mack, oh my goodness. Myles Garrett is not happy in Cleveland. Let's go get him. He's not going to be available. Come on, man. He's probably one of the one or two very best players at his position in the NFL. When you think of edge guys, you think of Myles Garrett, you think of T.J. Watt, Trey Hendrickson, even though he's on a bad team, he led the NFL in sacks. Micah Parsons, when he's healthy, I think those four guys come to mind. Now, of those four guys, like if the Cowboys were dumb enough to say, Micah Parsons, we don't want to pay you $35 to $40 million a year, and that's the other thing, we're going to put you on the trade block, then I would absolutely call Dallas for him. But just know that it's going to cost you multiple picks, including at least one, and you're going to have to pay Micah Parsons what he wants, which is $35 to $40 million a year. I'm not sure if the Buccaneers can do that right now. Right now, they have about $24 million in cap space, and you've got Chris Godwin, you've got Levante David, and behind that, you got Ben Bredesen. The Bucs have more than 20 free agents, so they're going to want to take care of their own first, and then if they can restructure some deals, look outside of their building. I think one name to watch for maybe in terms of an edge presence. Marcus Davenport was hurt this year with the Lions. He was hurt when he was with the Saints. That guy's always hurt. On a one-year prove-it deal, I think he's a guy that probably is worth a gamble. And as I mentioned in the last hour, the Buccaneers have become a destination. For so many years, they were the team that had to do what Carolina did last year, which is overpay to get people to come play for them. Carolina paid $150 million last year to 2 guards. Not a left tackle, not a center. They paid $150 million for 2 guards, Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis, because they had to. Nobody wants to play for them. No one wants to play for their, ridiculous, abusive, adversarial owner who throws drinks on other people. He's not a respectable guy. And the Buccaneers for many years had to do the same thing. They had to overpay to get guys to come here and play. I remember when Jason Light first got the job, and he probably doesn't want to hear this. If he's driving home, Jason, sorry. But Jason Light went out in free agency, and he signed 2 players, if you remember. Anthony Collins and Michael Johnson. And fans were so excited. Michael Johnson came over from the Bengals, an edge player. He was a dud here. He was a dud as a player. And I remember being in the locker room. I had to interview him for the pregame show. He just wasn't comfortable. He didn't like it here. He came here for the money, and it didn't work. He was cut loose after 1 year. Anthony Collins. Oh, the offensive tackle, what a knucklehead that guy was. On the field, off the field, the Bucs are like, ugh. And look, when you make a mistake, you just cut it off right there. Cut him loose, move on. And that's one thing Jason Light has done well. He's become a top 5 GM, but look, not every GM's going to hit it out of the park. There's going to be mistakes. But when you make those mistakes, admit it, and just move on from those mistakes. Back to the phones. Mike is out in L.A. Mikey, what's going on?
Hey, Tommy. I didn't know this. I was telling Chris. Did you hear a while back about Darren Dave's Coach Dave's dad committing suicide? Did you hear about that?
I did not, no.
Yeah, I just heard that today up in the Cincinnati Sports Talk, and kind of shocked me because I hadn't heard anything about it. So I kind of have to take back some of the spunky things I said about Coach Dave. So God love you, Coach Dave. I'm curious, Tom. How are the Commanders gonna handle Barkley? Can anybody handle Barkley? You got any ideas? I'd love to hear them.
I do, Mike, and I appreciate the call as always. I think they're going to stack the box without question. They're going to play, 4 5-man fronts. They're going to play 5-man fronts, 100%. They've got a couple of defensive linemen that are pretty stout right at the point of attack. But right now, Philadelphia's passing game is not it. It's not a playoff caliber passing game. It's bad, in fact. A.J. Brown is a non-factor. Jalen Hurts has not been accurate down the field. And I'm just wondering if that concussion, remember, he sat out a couple of weeks with that concussion. If there are any lingering effects there, because, yeah, he can run the ball a little bit, and he certainly has to be careful with the shots that he takes, that he delivers, and that he takes. I would slide feet first. I saw him do that a few times. Very smart, run out of bounds. They did the tush push a couple of times. You saw that too, and that's always a risky play, especially when you have a quarterback coming off a concussion. But there's no question Washington is going to dare Philadelphia to throw the ball down the field. They will stack the box. There will be 8 guys in the box, right around 1 to 2 yards, right off the line of scrimmage. And their safeties have to do a really good job of gaining proper angles. Don't do what Cameron Curl did on Sunday, because the 2 long Saquon Barkley runs, go back and watch them. They took place because number 3 took the 2 worst angles you will ever see a safety take, and he missed both tackles, and Barkley hits his head on the goalpost, making snow angels in the end zone. You got to be able to tackle. You got to have safeties that take the proper angles, and they will absolutely stack the box. I give Washington more than a puncher's chance. I know that line is going up. You check it right now for entertainment purposes only, Chris Mathis. I know we have Let It Ride coming up a little bit later on this week.
Oh, yeah, Thursday.
Oh, it's 6 points. Come on, man. I'm taking Washington. Washington's got something about them. They have the it factor. Jaden Daniels, he's got the it factor associated with him as well. I'm taking the Commanders plus the 6 points. I think they've got a shot. All right, coming up. Washington will blank in Philadelphia this weekend. We got fill in the blank. It's going to be raucous. It's going to be controversial as well. I know Chris Mathis is up to something, and we'll get into it coming up next here on The Drive. Don't move.
You're tuned in to The Drive with TKras.
We are live inside the Rude Air and Water Studios here on The Drive. And I'll tell you what, air and water are two things a certified Rude Pro partner knows an awful lot about. And you know it's getting cold out there, so I hope your hot water is flowing. I hope your heat is working. Because if it isn't, your family's going to be very upset. And if it's not working, you need to get with a certified Rude Pro partner. My guys over at Ferguson HVAC. You know you can rely on Rude to keep your indoor air comfortable. And now you know you can rely on Rude to make sure the hot water is flowing as well whenever you need it, especially on a night like tonight. Rude Water Heating is the industry leader for total water heating solutions. You need conventional tank-type water heaters. They've got it. Tankless water heaters, that's what I've got, by the way. They've got that, too. Replacement parts and accessories for all categories. Check and check. Rude is your one-stop solutions provider. And with the exclusive backing of Ferguson HVAC, guess what? Your certified Rude Pro partners get the very best products and parts when you need it, guys. Rude water heaters, engineered tough and built to last. For AC and water heating solutions, connect with a certified Rude Pro partner right now. Go online, RudeACFlorida.com. That's Rude spelled RUUD, ACFlorida.com.
Peoples.
Cruise control activated. This is The Drive with TKras, courtesy of Moss Nissan, live on WDAE.
Let's play a game called Fill in the Blank. I kick a rhyme for you to listen.
Fill in the blank.
That's how I feel. It is time for Fill in the Blank. 5:32 on your ride home on this cold, rainy day in Tampa Bay. You know what's wild? The fact that at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I saw this on X. Bay News 9 tweeted this out from their weather department. It's snowing in Pensacola with temperatures in the mid to late 20s, 26, 27 degrees. Meanwhile, down in Miami, at the same time, it was 80 degrees. Here in the state of Florida. Oof is right. Are you kidding me?
Pick one. Which one are you taking? You going to take Pensacola's weather or Miami's weather right now? Not in between, Tom.
I would take Miami's weather.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Listen, I've done the cold. Been there, done that. Forget it.
Temporarily, though, to see snow in Florida, I would go there for a day. I would experience it for a day.
Well, and here's the thing, and I talked about this earlier, and there are so many people that I know, I want to drive up there and see the snow. Why? You're driving up there, and on your way up there, you're going to encounter wintry weather. Worse than driving in snow, it's the ice. It's the freezing rain that makes contact with the surface, turns to ice. That is way worse than driving in snow. Trust me. And a lot of these municipalities up in Alabama, winter storm warning, there's snow on Bourbon Street, in New Orleans, in Pensacola, along the I-10 corridor. A lot of these municipalities are not equipped to handle snow removal at all. So that is, a recipe for disaster when it comes to accidents and everything else in between. So just be careful. Sit your ass at home.
Well, Notre Dame moving away from the rushing attack they had on the opening drive last night. That was a situation for disaster. So last night's national championship game was blank.
It was expected. Right before we got off the air, I picked Ohio State to win, but I said, I think Notre Dame will cover the points. And before that last bump to Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State kicked that field goal. It was going to look like Notre Dame was going to cover the spread. It was 9, and they were down by 8. And then Ohio State kicks a field goal, and a lot of money changed hands on that field goal. But I thought last night's game was expected. I thought Marcus Freeman was going to give Ohio State all he can handle. But look, Notre Dame was just outmanned. Their defense is really good. Riley Leonard is a gutsy little quarterback. But when I saw him throw up after that opening drive, I'm like, no, man, this team doesn't have the stomach to hang with this other team here.
A lot of conversation from college football fans across the nation regarding the college football playoff. The fix for the college football playoff format is blank.
Well, look, if you win your conference tournament, you deserve to be one of the 12 teams. But as we saw this year, Boise State and Arizona State had no business receiving first-round byes. You're in, you should be seeded, but in no way, shape, or form should you have a top 4 seed and a first-round bye. They need to rectify that ASAP in this format moving forward. And apparently, look, we've talked to a few people. Who did we talk to the other? Brett McMurphy said it's going to 14 teams soon. So it's going to keep expanding. I think 12 is okay. 14, how many more teams do you want in there, really? Yeah.
Talking NFL, of course, ahead of this weekend's playoff games. Tom, the biggest difference between the NFL team still alive, searching for that Lombardi trophy, and the Buccaneers this season was blank.
Look, I wouldn't say it's like quarterback play because I think 3 of the 4 quarterbacks are playing at a high level. I don't think Jalen Hurts is right now. The other 3 are. Jaden Daniels is. Josh Allen is. Patrick Mahomes is. So you can find that common theme there. But, defensively, Eagles defense really good. I think Buffalo's defense, turned over Baltimore when they had to. They made some big stops, too, when the game was on the line. Kansas City's defense, really good, got after C.J. Stroud. Washington's defense forced 5 turnovers, and I think that's the difference right there. I don't think the Bucs defense is nearly good enough to compete with any of these teams that are still around. They're gonna have to devote their resources mostly in the draft to drafting defense and getting better on that side of the ball. So it's the defense that's really the big factor for me.
Yeah, and you know what? You just answered my next prop for you, so we're going to move right along here. It is fill in the blank on the Tuesday edition of The Drive. The NFL team that was knocked out of the playoffs last weekend that stung or shocked you the most was blank.
It was the Lions. And I know, Nick Wise is out there. You got to keep the sharp objects away from him. But it's the Lions. The 5 turnovers, that was surprising. Jared Goff was playing at a really high level. He made some really bad mistakes. They fell behind early. And look, defensively, they got no pressure on Jaden Daniels. He sat back there, and he was able to pick them apart. And look, Jaden Daniels is really impressive when it comes to his poise, his composure. Nothing bothers him. Nothing phases him. But he also throws a really pretty deep ball, too, and he's very accurate down the field. What a stud.
We'll continue here with just a few more of a rushing attack and not committing turnovers. Blank is most valuable in the playoffs.
You can't turn it over. That's the single biggest reason why you win or lose games in the playoffs. Look at the 4 teams that won this weekend. None of them. 0 turnovers. All of those teams did not commit 1 turnover. That's why they all won. The other teams, they all turned it over. All of them. And they're all home.
Yeah, we're not talking about apple turnovers here on The Drive either, unfortunately.
Oh, I love apple turnovers.
Me too. Oh, man. Little vanilla ice cream. The worst team remaining in the playoffs this postseason is blank.
Wow.
The weak link of the 4. And you could go based on their matchup they have as well this weekend.
Well, look, Philadelphia is really talented. I don't think they're playing up to that talent necessarily. Saquon Barkley is, and I think Jalen Carter is. I don't think their passing game is really great right now. And, their secondary, they're young back there too. I think those young guys who have been really good during the regular season, they had their problems, certainly against the Rams. Right now, the hottest team, the team that I wouldn't want to play, honestly, are the Washington Commanders. That's the team right now that has everything going for them. And a quarterback right now that can beat you with his arm. He can beat you with his legs. And look, the Buccaneers, I thought, had them. And that's the frustrating thing about it. I think the Buccaneers should have beat them if it wasn't for that the jet sweep fumble, because the Bucs had the lead, fourth quarter. I did say that, Levante. Would you say that? The answer is yes. You stopped them. The defense had a goal line stand. Washington had 1st and goal at the 1, and you stopped them. You had the ball with the lead, 17-13 in the fourth quarter, and then you turned it over at your own 13.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Punch the table over that one. Final one, Washington will blank against Philadelphia this weekend.
I think they will give the Eagles all they can handle this weekend. Absolutely. And I would definitely take them plus the 6. Would it surprise me if they won? No, it would not. It would not surprise me at all. I think Washington is that good. They're the hot team. And sometimes it's not the best team that wins. It's the team that catches fire. And right now, the Commandos are on fire. They are.
And that is fill in the blank here on The Drive.
All right, great job there, Chris Mathis at 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. And yeah, I do stand corrected. The Texans did not turn the ball over. So they were the only losing team. They didn't commit a turnover. They made plenty of other mistakes, mind you. They missed on a 4th down. They turned it over on downs. It doesn't count as a real turnover. And look, the officiating I thought was skewed toward the Chiefs. The Texans committed 8 penalties for over 80 yards. So that was certainly not ideal from their standpoint. All right, coming up just after 6 o'clock, a lot of talk on the Buccaneers. A lot of talk as to where they stand this offseason. How many moves can they make? What about the contracts of Baker Mayfield? and Jamel Dean? What about Levante David and Chris Godwin? They're two big-name free agents. Will they be back? What is that going to look like? We're going to get the scoop from Mike Janetti from Spot Track. He will join us just after 6 o'clock as we'll take you all the way up until 7 o'clock. But on the way back, Chris Mathis is going to let you know what's on tonight. And we'll give you the latest on Liam Cohen and news from around the NFL when it comes to coaches moving around. That is next here on The Drive.
You're tuned in to The Drive with TKras.
Guys, it is 2025, and if you're continuing to have problems with your roof, you need to call on my guys over at Green Tech Roofing and Solar. They're awesome. They'll do a great job for you. They did a great job for me. They helped me out in a big way after Hurricane Milton. John Franco and his team, they came by and they took one good look at it and said, no problem, Tom. We're going to help you out in a big way. And they did. So if you're still dealing with roof damages, you need to call on my guys over at Green Tech Roofing and Solar, the #1 roofing solution in Tampa Bay. They offer free inspections. They're locally owned, licensed, and trusted by the Tampa Bay community. They do residential. They do commercial. Over 400 5-star reviews. I gave them 5 stars, and you will too if you need your roof repaired, if you need a new roof. These are the guys you need to call on. And oh, by the way, they have great people who work over there at Green Tech Roofing and Solar. Samantha helped me out in a big way, as she's got this beautiful-looking dog named Kilo. And Kilo was just represented, and he was look at this cute dog. If you're watching on the stream, that is Kilo. Kilo made Mr. August in this calendar that outlined some of the wonderful pups that work for roofing companies from all across our great nation of ours. And Kilo, Samantha's dog from Green Tech Roofing and Solar. Look at that, Mr. August. So congratulations to that pup and Samantha. Really awesome. So head on over. You need your roof replaced or repaired. Go to greentechroofing.com. That's greentechroofing.com to schedule your free roof inspection. This is Smart Roofing.
WDAE
traffic update. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
Crashing Countryside on eastbound 580 at Countryside Boulevard. 2 left lanes are blocked there. A crash in Largo on eastbound Omerton near 121st. And a crash in St. Pete blocks all lanes on westbound 38th Avenue North at 275. Seeing delays in Tampa. Northbound Dale Mabry approaching a crash just north of Hillsborough Avenue. One on westbound Van Dyke before the Suncoast Parkway. Get traffic info around the clock by searching News Radio WFLA on iHeartRadio. I'm Randy Myers.
Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store and everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusion supply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 2/1. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
Achieve real goals at Epic Health and Fitness. Experience a real gym with top-notch equipment, expert trainers, and a supportive community. See real results with personalized programs tailored to your needs. Our gyms have the best equipment,
Free. Now back to the Drive with TKras on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. What's on tonight with the Drive with TKras?
Yes, sir. And here he is, the executive producer of this hideous program, Chris Mathis.
All right, Tampa Bay, hopefully your Lightning can get back on track with a fast start tonight against the Canadians. That puck drop. Good for Kucherov! It might very well be. It's no laughing matter for John Cooper. We all know that. 7 o'clock puck drop tonight. That's the latest there. If you're interested in a little college basketball action, we do have a few games. Quite the lineup. Oregon, number 15, takes on Washington. That's a later game, but that's one of the higher-seeded matchups between two teams. And then, as always, check out the free iHeartRadio app. New, improved, revamped. It's awesome. It really is. You can add presets. It's commercial-free. Regarding the Drive, all of our features, the interviews, hour-by-hour podcasting. And make sure to follow us on social media at 95.3 WDAE.
I can hear you.
I'm glad you can hear us, Eric Neander. I wonder how he's doing. Trying to find some more bats, perhaps? I don't know. His competitors in the AL East, they're making some moves. Anthony Santander went to Toronto. He left Baltimore, hit 44 home runs last year, and now he's going to the Blue Jays for 5 years, more than $90 million. So it's going to be a tough go of it for the Rays. We'll talk more about the Rays in the 6 o'clock hour. There's a developing story there. But I want to get into some NFL because some interesting news regarding some coaches that are moving around. First off, Rick Stroud has an interesting story at TampaBay.com. And you're not going to like this, Buccaneer fans, but this is the reality of the situation. Liam Cohen is going for a second interview tomorrow up in Jacksonville. And if all goes well, he could be offered the job. And Rick is reporting that the Buccaneers are bracing for that possibility that Liam Cohen will be offered the job by the Jaguars. So that's where we're at in terms of Liam Cohen. We'll find out how that interview goes. If the Jags are looking for an offensive guy to pair with Trevor Lawrence, he's a logical candidate because the other two finalists are defensive guys, Patrick Graham, the Raiders defensive coordinator, and Robert Saleh, the former Jets head coach, defensive coordinator by trade. There's a report that Saleh could go back to the 49ers to get his old job back as defensive coordinator if he wants it. So that's the fallback option, it appears, for Saleh if he doesn't get the Jacksonville job. Now, the Saints are looking for a head coach. They want to interview some people, including former Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy. But in case you haven't heard, they didn't go up there and tell you, there's a winter storm that's blowing through the South. And the Saints are getting buried by snow. New Orleans is getting buried by snow. By the way, New Orleans is the site of the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks. Lots of snow on the ground, and because of the winter storm, that's pushing back their interviews a little bit. And because they're pushing back all these interviews that they want to conduct, they're probably going to lose the guy that they really want in Aaron Glenn, who used to coach in New Orleans as an assistant, Lions defensive coordinator, former Jet. Right now, he is interviewing with the Jets for the second time, and there appears to be some momentum that Aaron Glenn could very well be the next head coach of the New York Jets. So we'll keep an eye on that. In other news, Chris Mathis, what year is it? Is it 2010?
No, we're 15 years past that, Tom.
What?
2025.
I thought it was 2010 because I just saw that Josh McDaniels is going back to the Patriots to be their offensive coordinator. What the hell is going on?
Oh, so what's the question?
The question here, Tommy boy, is did you see that one coming? Wow. So Mike Vrabel, who got the job, obviously wants to get some of his buddies in there. So Josh McDaniels is going back to the Patriots again. What is this, like his third stint as offensive coordinator? Fourth stint? Whatever it is? Because he had the job, and then he went to Denver. That imploded after he left the Colts at the altar, too. The Colts weren't happy about that. Oh, my goodness. Josh McDaniels going back to the Patriots as their offensive coordinator. Who would have thunk it? 888-546-4620. No, Dolan. McCarthy is being interviewed by the Saints for their head coaching position. So a couple of you are texting in. He's interviewing for the head coaching job. So really interesting stuff happening there. Really interesting stuff in regard to the Buccaneers and where they stand right now at the salary cap. So how much money do they have? What is it going to take to re-sign Chris Godwin? Ditto, re-signing Levante David. What is that going to look like? What about the Baker contract? What about Jamel Dean? Can the Buccaneers move off of him? There are so many moves, obviously, on top of the whole Liam Cohen story that perhaps the Buccaneers are bracing for him to be offered the job, and now it'll be up to Liam Cohen whether or not he's going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars head coaching job. If he does, then the Buccaneers will need a new offensive coordinator again for the fourth straight year, by the way. Remember, they had Byron Leftwich, fired. Dave Canales went to Carolina. Liam Cohen, maybe he goes to Jacksonville. The Buccaneers could very well have their fourth offensive coordinator in as many years next year. And for Baker Mayfield, listen, that's second nature. I mean, how many OCs has Baker had? He's been in the league, since 2018? He's had, I think, 9 offensive coordinators in the 7 years that he's been in the league. I think it's like 9. So he's a quick learner, Baker. New offensive coordinator, no problem. And if Liam takes the job, look, he ain't taking Baker with him. He's not allowed to. You can't have Wirfs either, or Gedeke, or Bucky, or Mike Evans, or Jalen McMillan. Yeah, the Buccaneers would take a hit. But if Liam Cohen leaves, the Buccaneer job of offensive coordinator is going to be highly sought after. I'm telling you, you're going to see some big names that are going to want this job if it becomes open. Nothing has happened yet. I think we'll find out tomorrow when Liam Cohen goes up to Jacksonville for interview number 2. All right, 3 hours are in the books. 1 more hour to go. Coming up, Bucs salary cap. Where do they stand now? Can they be players in free agency? Can they move off of a guy like Jamel Dean? What about Baker? What does a new contract for him look like? Because I think he's deserved one. We'll get the answer from SpotTrack.com's own Mike Janetti. He's awesome, a lot of insight. You'll learn a lot, too, about the salary cap, and he is coming up next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
It is The Drive, and it is presented by our guys over at Moss Nissan, where their goal is to never lose your business over price. Chris Mathis also alongside. He's experienced the Moss effect. I bought my last 2 vehicles over at Moss Nissan, so I know how awesome they are when it comes to the sales department, when it comes to the service department, customer satisfaction. They are tremendous. So if you're looking for a new or pre-owned vehicle, that's where you need to go, folks, in 2025. And coming off the holidays, you got holiday hangovers. If you have credit card debt holding you back, no problem. They've got the cure at Moss Nissan. Right, Chris?
Moss Nissan will take great care of you. No money down right now, plus no payments are due until the spring.
And you get Moss Care with every purchase. What is Moss Care? I've got it. It is awesome. Unlimited oil changes and tire rotations for as long as you own your vehicle. It's a beautiful thing.
And if you're shopping at Moss Nissan, you get all of that and so much more, including being able to select from the largest Nissan inventory in Tampa Bay.
Right you are. They've got 3 convenient locations throughout the Tampa Bay area. They're in Tampa, Newport Richey, and up in Brooksville, right off the Suncoast Parkway. Really convenient location. Or you can hit them up online at mossnissan.com. That's mossnissan.com. Moss Nissan, whatever it takes.
This, you pick simply more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game.
From Dade City to Carrollwood and all around Tampa Bay, plus worldwide on iHeartRadio.
The gloves are off. I'm playing hardball. It's 4th and 15, and you're looking at a full court press.
You're tuned into the voice of the Tampa Bay sports fan.
You're gonna like this guy. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us.
Buckle up, because you're on the drive with TKras. Afternoons on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620.
Well, he's an outstanding player. If we can sign him back at all, I'd love to have him back here. I don't know the significance yet of how long he'll be out and how he'll recover, but we definitely like to have him back.
Todd Bowles, Buccaneer head coach, he wants Chris Godwin back with the Buccaneers for 2025 and possibly beyond. Is that going to be realistic, though, given the salary cap and other moves that the Buccaneers will have to make this offseason? It's one of the pressing questions. Good evening, Tampa Bay. Welcome back. 6:05 on your ride home. The Drive with yours truly, TKras, Tom Krasnicki. We are presented by Moss Nissan. Chris Mathis on the other side acting like a knucklehead during the break.
Oh, I see what you did there. Knuckle. Oh, yeah. That was good. That was real good.
Yeah. You know it's real good. I tend to know what I'm doing most of the time here. Most of the time. I don't know.
You're pretty much a professional.
No, I'm not. A professional? Not according to some people on the text platform.
Are you professional or not?
Not. You freaking people. More of your calls and texts. We'll take you up until 7 o'clock. A lot of news with the Buccaneers. Could they be bracing to lose Liam Cohen to the Jaguars? That is a story that's out there. Rick Stroud, Tampa Bay Times at TampaBay.com. He kind of had it later on this afternoon. He broke it. Liam Cohen will be going to Jacksonville for interview number 2 tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. So there could be many changes. Maybe a new OC. Maybe some new talent. More than 20 free agents are out there, including Chris Godwin and Levante David. Will they be back? What about Jamel Dean's contract? What about restructuring other deals? What about Baker Mayfield? He's got 2 years left on a deal, and based on what he's done the last 2 years, I think that dude needs a raise and is looking for a raise. So many questions involving the Bucs and possible offseason moves, and where do they stand with the salary cap? Let's go to the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network, DA hotline. Learn more at cfbhn.org. He's standing by. He's a cap expert. Spottrack.com, that's his website. It's an informative website across all 4 major sports and salary cap situations, except for baseball, of course, because they don't have one. But Spottrack.com, you can check it all out there. And Mike Janetti is the editor-in-chief, and he joins us here on The Drive. Mike, how are you, man?
Good to be back. Doing well. Busy time for everybody here.
It sure is. All right, you heard Todd Bowles talk about Chris Godwin there. The ankle injury suffered against the Ravens. He was having a great year, Mike, before that happened. And now the ankle injury and the rehab is probably going to cloud things up a little bit, coming off that 3-year, $60 million deal. So in your opinion, what kind of contract do you think Chris Godwin is going to garner this offseason, and can the Bucs bring him back?
Well, you know that he was on the right track, right? Despite the age, despite the the 1B platform that Tampa Bay sort of had him on with Mike Evans, he was headed for one of the more notable names in free agency. And the more I dive into this class as a whole, not just the Tampa Bay class as a whole, he's still one of those names for me. So I'm tempted to devalue him to where a team's gonna want to see him rehab and find the field. This guy has just been so consistently available when healthy as a number 1 option, even sitting behind Evans, as we discussed. I don't know that you can drop him too far on the line. So just mathematically speaking, this guy's still right around that $20 million per year mark, which might sound high for everything included, but in the grand scheme of things, we're going to have wide receivers approaching $40 million a year soon. So it's going to be average WR2 pay, and I still think, like I said, that the market's going to be calling for this guy. Can Tampa Bay pay that? Absolutely. They've been doing it for 3.5 years. Why not 2-3 more years, 2 of those guaranteed? I actually see this relationship continuing because they have the ability and the knowledge right now of knowing just how long this rehab's going to take, how much they're going to have to backload it a little bit. Look, there's a lot of mouths to feed. There's 22 free agents sitting on this list right now, but he's, to me, the one you're talking about first.
Without question, and I think you're right in the fact that, this goes beyond the numbers and everything else, Chris Godwin, he loves Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay loves him. He wants to stay here. He and his wife just, had a child. He and Mike Evans are very close, so I think he does come back, and I think the Buccaneers do work something out. But you made an interesting point about the other free agents. T. Higgins, for example, in Cincinnati. Do you think he gets out of Cincinnati and he's going to command a monstrous deal? The Patriots with all that cap space make a lot of sense, but what kind of contract do you think T. Higgins gets?
Yeah, you nailed it. That's the name. That's still the name at the top of the list after all these weeks and months of doing work on this stuff. And the Patriots, there's a few other names for sure with flush with cap space. I put Washington in this conversation. Certainly the Bears. You're going to have a situation where it's going to be approaching at least $30 million a year for this player. And in that regard, your first question is, does he get out of Cincinnati? It's the wrong franchise to be talking about in this way because they generally don't go big. But a second tag on T. Higgins is $26 million, and that's a big cap hit, and that's not one of the cap flush teams. But it is a team that has shown that it can hold itself together with T. Higgins and with Jamar Chase as their main options. I wouldn't put it past any franchise to double tag T. Higgins this offseason, but Manatee not going to like it, so it's going to be a battle for a bunch of months if that happens.
And they have to pay Jamar Chase. You just mentioned it, and the kind of year that he just had, he just won the Triple Crown. He wants to get more money than Justin Jefferson, who makes $35 million a year. So are we talking about Jamar Chase at $40 million? There's no way they could pay T. Higgins, right?
No way. I'm not naive enough to think that everything's going to come together for multiple seasons. But even if you go and do a Jamar Chase deal, and it's going to be past the Jefferson deal. It was already headed in that direction, and then certainly with what he did on the field in 2024 has supplanted that. It's going to be the biggest wide receiver contract ever. But from a salary cap perspective, as you probably know, year one of these new deals is always nice and fresh and low because of the signing bonus structure that teams build in. So you could put a nice low number in for DeMar Chase on the cap and a nice high franchise tag in for T. Higgins and make it work for one more season. But we're leaving the cash part of this out, and that's certainly the problem that Cincinnati has had over the years. And you're talking upwards of $60 to $80 million in year one for those two players.
Well, and that ownership, and you know this too, Mike, they have been notoriously frugal over the course of many, many years, so that's an issue as well. Mike Janetti from SpotTrack.com is with me here on the Drive. So let's get back to the Bucs. From your estimation, and there are a lot of numbers out there, how much cap space do you think the Buccaneers will have to play with?
Yeah, we've made some adjustments this week, added in some bonuses and things like that. And as we stand right now, it's about $24 million. So, not great, not terrible. There's a lot worse, there's a lot better right now. But there's certainly plenty of fluidity that comes with that. And, that starts with a couple players that will hit the dead cap because of voided contracts, as has been the case in Tampa Bay for the past 3-4 seasons. But, you're around that $25 million mark right now, and you're probably going to need to almost double that to really make the impact with the free agent list that you have going forward here.
And there are ways to create more room. They can restructure deals. So who are some guys, maybe Antoine Winfield Jr., maybe his contract? Can the Buccaneers restructure some of these deals, in your opinion?
Yeah, there's a couple of real high ones up there in terms of salary and the signing bonus conversions. Baker Mayfield, obviously the big one. Tristan Wirfs with his new contract has a big bloated base salary. Mike Evans and then Winfield, as you mentioned. You just take on those four, and you're already in a pretty decent shape to start to bring back some people and hit the free agent market with some room. So they've set themselves up nicely in that regard, with shorter deals that they can maneuver with some void years as they've done in the past. This is one of those teams I'm not really worried about financially speaking. It's more of the decisions, right? It's more of the names, which ones stay, which ones go. It's just one of the bigger lists we have this offseason, and certainly this is a team that needs the same contention, all things considered.
Mike Janetti of SpotTrack is with me. So let's talk about Baker, because he just had a great year. He's got 2 years left on his deal, $30 million next year and $40 million the year after that, right? So do you think the Buccaneers maybe go to him and talk about a new contract in a way to maybe alleviate some more cap space?
Yeah, they're going to have to do something because, this guy just went basically top 5 in all the major metrics and sort of even still remains underrated somehow. He's been that kind of stealthy, and I don't think it's going away. They're going to risk losing the offensive coordinator maybe, and there may be some systematic changes to go with that. But from a contract standpoint, this was the problem they were hoping and not hoping they were going to have this offseason, which is he's going to be too good to stay in his contract, but man, he's good, and he's going to be our guy going forward. The problem is he already took the value deal. So when you start talking about an actual real start of a contract, it's going to be really hard not to start with 50, and approach 60 because of him still being 29 years old, because of where this market's headed, and we're going to have a couple more big time contracts this offseason to tack on to the top here. So it's probably a situation where we don't have to start fresh this offseason. We can pull somebody out of 2026. That's not guaranteed anyway. Bring it in 2025, kind of band-aid the process, make him happy. He's got the incentives to tack us. After 2025, when some other things start to clear up a little bit, we'll talk about that real big 4-year extension and go from there.
I want to ask you about another contract. That's Jamel Dean. He's in the midst of a 4-year, $52 million deal. He wasn't on the field a lot, to the frustration of a lot of Buccaneer fans and maybe some coaches too. So if the Buccaneers decided to move on from him, I think they would like to maybe trade him or cut him. But what are the ramifications in terms of the cap?
Yeah, the guaranteed money's actually completely fallen off of this contract now, heading into year 3. So the trader to cut this player even early, without the post June 1st, is almost $8.5 million saved. So I would expect, because of everything you framed there, that's one of the moves they make for cap purposes. And even if it means we're going to try to bring him back on something different, it just doesn't seem like the reliability, consistency of matching this number right now. I might take those cap savings in March.
Interesting. All right, so $8.5 million if they move on from him. They have a lot of guys they want to bring back. We talked about Chris Godwin. Levante David is another guy, on a year-to-year basis, 34-year-old guy, still played pretty well. Maybe not the player he once was, Mike. So what would a Levante contract look like? Because last year, I think the Bucs were going to bring him back, and all of a sudden the 49ers showed some interest, and the Buccaneers had to pay him more, right?
Exactly, yes. It was probably in the $4 to $5 million mark, and then we got to $7.5 million pretty quickly. He's still that kind of player, right? He hasn't aged out of production to the point of where, the math doesn't keep up with him. He's still probably a $6 to $6.5 million player, even when you bring age into it. So, if there's not that other team out there bidding him up, you can probably bring him back on 1 for 5 with a bunch of incentives that Tampa Bay loves to build into these things. But if not, you might have to just, offer the exact same contract he played out last year and use the void years and keep the salary cap low. But I think if he wants to return to football, it makes absolutely no sense not to have him back in Tampa Bay in 2025.
And I think he plays for the Bucs or he retires. I think those are the two options. Right. I don't think he plays for anybody else. So can the Buccaneers, in a perfect world, get into a place, Mike, where bring back Godwin, they'll bring back Levante. Those are the two big names. There's some others too. Ben Rendison's probably going to want more money because he played well. He made $3 million last year. Do you see the Buccaneers getting to a point where they could be players in free agency? Are they going to have enough cap space in order to do that?
Yeah, when you've got 4 or 5 contracts that you can convert for cap purposes, and then maybe there's 1 or 2 notable cap casualties like we're discussing here, that's upward to 25 to 30 million freed up without really doing too much, right? And then if we do a bigger extension and some other things that we've referenced here today, you can become at least playable, right? You can maybe 1 max contract, maybe 2 B contracts, and that's really all this team kind of needs, the same contention in my opinion, because the core really has been established, and there's been a bunch of draft picks that have hit nicely for value purposes. So I'd say not uber aggressive players, but certainly players, right? Buyers in most breaths here. Certainly that's here below the Patriots and the Commanders that are the big cap space spenders this offseason.
Right. Look, they're not going to be in that category, but if they can get into a position, look, they're a contender, so maybe they can attract one of these veterans who might be chasing a ring. Now, edge rusher is obviously a position of need for the Buccaneers, so are there any guys out there that could be in their price range, in your opinion?
Yeah, look, this is a position, especially for free agent purposes, that has really dropped in value over the past couple of years, right? We've seen some guys take some show-me deals, like a Chase Young, and certainly the Clowney situation over the years. If you want to bring somebody a little older that might be more cost-effective, guys like Dante Fowler Jr., DeMarcus Lawrence, I have a feeling they're going to change teams because of their current situations. That's probably the neighborhood that this team is looking for, in addition to certainly a draft pick. But something in the $5 to $6 million mark on maybe a 1 or 2 year deal should fit the bill. And we've seen 3 or 4 really big players come in and make huge impacts on 1 year deals in that regard. So I'm feeling that's probably in the neighborhood of where Tampa Bay's going to live in, and that's certainly a position for you so you can go and get done.
What about a guy like Marcus Davenport? I know he's hurt all the time, but he kind of fits into that range. 28 years old, $6.5 million, somewhere in that range.
Exactly. That's exactly the same type of player we're talking about here. Who you know is just looking for a one-year prove-it deal and is going to be cost-effective for you.
All right, so Mike Vrabel takes over the Patriots. I thought that was the best job available because you got Drake May, you got all this cap space, you have the number 4 overall pick, and we've seen it. Mike, we've seen teams that one-year turnarounds. Houston Texans against Stroud, one-year turnaround. The Commanders just did it, 4-13 to 12-5. Might we look at the Patriots next year making a similar type of jump, maybe?
I don't know why not. It's not like this division in the AFC East is an absolute behemoth, right? Buffalo's going to be Buffalo, but the Jets seem to be sliding backwards, not forwards, and Miami's sort of stuck in mud here. So it's not going to take much to compete, divisionally speaking, and that helps from a schedule standpoint to get yourself in the wild card contention. They seem to have everything in place right now. There's some offensive line pieces that look good. The team has been good for 2 or 3 years, and they can be as aggressive as they want to be here, both in terms of the high draft picks, top 100 draft picks, and with that $125 million cap space to work with as well. So it may not be the most attractive spot, right? I do think what Jaden Daniels is doing in Washington is going to make Washington the most attractive spot when you put it all together. But that Patriots situation should be top 3, no question this much.
And what about the NFC South as a whole? The Buccaneers right there at the top. They won the last 4 division titles. What about Atlanta, New Orleans, Carolina, or any of these teams? Like, we know New Orleans is upside down in the cap, right? I mean, they're in salary cap hell, aren't they?
Always. But to be honest, I've got them at like -50 here right now. This feels like cheating for them right now. They're generally in the -100, -90 neighborhood. So it does feel like they have sort of driven that back a little bit. That doesn't mean they're in any better shape. There's a lot of big decisions. There are cap casualties. There's some injury retirements happening on that roster, and they don't even have a coach yet. So it thumbs down on that situation for how similar in Atlanta to some degree, only because of the Cousins situation. They're going to have to release Cousins. That's going to put them behind the 8 ball a little bit in terms of the financials this offseason. But obviously the Penix Jr. stuff and some of those young players who have started risen up a little bit here will make them attractive, but will be attractive enough to get the big defensive players they need to really become formidable in this division. I don't think so just yet.
And what about Carolina? Where do they stand?
But they spent a heck of a lot of money last offseason, the most money in terms of total value contracts in the league. So you knew something was going to turn around late in the season. Something had to come together. And when Bryce Young started to figure things out, you know that they're trending in the right direction. Will they double up, right? Will they go another big offseason? They have the ability to do it if they convert a bunch of these contracts they just signed. I'm not sure they're ready to do that. And I have a feeling it's going to be somewhat of a slowdown year. It could be a 500 team, but probably not much more than that based on what they've done. It just seems like you're probably not going to throw too much salt up. You bet. My pleasure.
Thanks, Mike. Great stuff. Spottrack.com. Get there. It's a great website. You can find out the cap situations for all 32 teams. You can see the Buccaneers and their contracts, how they're all set up, and there'll be some interesting decisions. But look, around 20 to 24 million right now available. They can move off Jamel Dean and clear about $8.5 million, which is something that I think the Buccaneers will seriously consider moving forward. And if you do that, you're going to have to draft a corner or go out and sign another corner in free agency. So a lot of interesting moves being pondered. And look, for Baker Mayfield, $30 million next year, $40 million the year after that, I think he deserves an adjustment. Baker Mayfield deserves another contract, one that's going to pay him market value. So as Mike just mentioned, I think that contract should look like $50 to $55 million a year. $30 million is robbery, to be quite honest. Robbery. And look, Baker Mayfield signed, a contract that we all thought at the time was fair. 1 year prove-it deal, knocked it out of the park. And now he gets his 3-year, $100 million deal. 1 year into it, he's overperformed it. Only quarterback in football finished top 3, passing yards, completion percentage, passing touchdowns. Only one guy finished in the top 3 of all those categories. That's Baker Mayfield. So I don't think he's going to go in there like demanding a new contract. I think that will happen naturally. And in doing so, maybe they can lower his cap number 2 with a new deal. But Baker deserves it. He's your franchise guy. And knock on wood, you've got this guy now for the next 7 or 8 years, maybe longer. So interesting stuff happening there in the world of the NFL. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. All right, when we come back, your calls on what you heard. News on the baseball front. Why are so many Rays fans upset with the club? I'm going to tell you why on the way back. Plus, the Hall of Fame class of 2025 is being announced as we speak. Who got in? Who was left out in the cold? That is next.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
On this cold and rainy and blustery Tuesday here in Tampa Bay, it beats the hell out of driving in snow up in the Panhandle and along I-10. What an historic day here in Florida when it comes to the weather. But here, no snow here, but still cold and rain. Not ideal driving conditions. Be careful out there. Injury accidents do happen. And if you happen to be the victim of one, call on my guys over at Catania & Catania, the personal injury law firm that's been doing their thing here in Tampa Bay for 3 decades. They don't get paid unless you get paid, but they are experienced. They've got a proven track record, and they've also been quite successful, too. Almost $1 billion with a B has been successfully recovered by my guys for injury victims just like you. So I called on them when I had my injury accident. They've had my back. They'll have your back, too. Here's the number. 813-222-8545. That's 813-222-8545. Or online at CataniaandCatania.com, where they put families
Live with TKras, courtesy of Moss Nissan on WDAE.
6:33 on your ride home on this Tuesday. Cold, rainy, miserable outside. Make sure you're indoors and you have it tuned to WDAE. You can ask your smart speaker in your home to play WDAE. Download the new and improved iHeartRadio app. You can listen to us from anywhere in the civilized world. So for our listeners up in the Panhandle, I actually want to hear from you. If you're listening to us up in the Panhandle along the I-10 corridor, where it's been snowing all day today, I want to hear from you. 888-546-4620. Text at 82945. I want to know what's going on up there. I just saw a picture of the Caesars Superdome, whatever they call that place now up in New Orleans, the site of the Super Bowl, by the way, in less than 3 weeks. Wow, dude. Snow, heavy snow at that, all over the place. Just incredible. So a lot of football talk. Mike Janetti, really good stuff there. News on the baseball front. Major League Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2025 has been announced. And to no one's surprise, Ichiro Suzuki got in. What I am surprised is, and I really, really thought that he would be the second unanimous candidate to enter the Hall of Fame. Mariano Rivera is the only guy to get every single vote. And that happened several years ago. And I thought for sure that Ichiro was going to get every single vote. Guess what? He fell one vote shy of being unanimously selected. Who the hell was that one guy who didn't vote for him? That's what I want to know. He should have his credentials revoked. We know it wasn't Mark Topkin because he voted for him. Topper just put his Hall of Fame ballot on X, and he got it right, actually, for once. A little bit. He had Ichiro. He had CC Sabathia, 251 victories. Noted, reputed Rays hater, by the way, CC Sabathia. He hates the Rays. Nice guy, though. I did a charity event with him one time down at, what's that bowling alley? That Splitsville. Down there in downtown Tampa. Really good dude. And Billy Wagner, who should have been in years ago, finally gets into the Baseball Hall of Fame. So congratulations. Those three guys are in. Billy Wagner, CC Sabathia, and Ichiro. Now, speaking of Mark Topkin, he just posted a story about an hour ago at the Tampa Bay Times and at TampaBay.com. Apparently, a lot of Rays fans are upset with the team. Some Rays season ticket holders are not too happy because, you know, they were trying to get comparable seats over at Steinbrenner Field. And once they found out how much money it would cost, they got very upset. And some people just decided not to renew. 2025 home games, as you know, will be at Steinbrenner Field, and you'll be outdoors and in the elements. It's an 11,000-seat stadium, as we know. The capacity at the Trop is 25,000. Not that the Rays ever put 25,000 in there outside of opening day, perhaps. Yes, Eric Neander. We know what the story is. But in this article, Mark Topkin went on to say that some fans were upset with the team because they hiked up prices on all these season tickets to the point where some decided to cancel altogether. And some people went to a Rays Facebook group to express their displeasure. Like Christy Shell, who wrote, "Huge hike in the price to sit outside with less perks. We opted out. It is disappointing to say the least." Now, according to Topper's article, in the first few weeks that season ticket renewals and sales were available, the Rays said that they have found some business for the most expensive seating areas at Steinbrenner Field. The priciest one, get this, about $30,000 per seat, which is about $370 per game. And that includes comfortable seats, unlimited food, beer, wine, soft drinks, and access to a private club. That's what you get for about $30,000 a seat over the course of an entire season. Now, the Rays' chief business officer, Bill Walsh, he said last week, quote, the premium seating areas that we came out with first have sold really well. There's really just a couple of seats left in a few of those areas, and many of them are selling through really strongly. So we've been happy with what the market has told us in terms of the sales and feedback. We'll continue to move through the process, and we'll make adjustments as we go. Excuse me. I just had a sneeze, so I turned off my mic. So Walsh went on to say that the prices on the Rays ticketing website were, right on target. All 104 dugout club seats at $29,000, almost $30,000 for the 52 in the front row, and $26,000 and change for the second row. And most of the home plate seats, about 117 of the 129, are going for $22,000. And most of the loge seats are at $14,000. So some fans can afford it, some cannot. And look, it's all about supply and demand, right? There are fewer seats. It's on a Tampa side, so some people who normally wouldn't go to games, wouldn't dare cross the bridge and go over to the Trop on the Tampa side are now like, okay, now I could go to more games. I don't have to cross the bridge. It's a shorter drive. So I'm going to pony up some money for Rays tickets. And there are many of them, so the Rays are hiking them up. It's supply and demand, folks. An age-old economic theory, which has been around, this country for hundreds of years or whatever. That's basically what we're looking at here. If you want them, you're going to pay for them. If you don't, somebody else will. That's just the nature of the beast. Walsh went on to say that the Rays are aware that some longtime customers have been upset and they're trying to accommodate them. Yeah, he goes, our reps have been on the phone every day, looking at different options, different packages, yada, yada, yada. So that's a story. A lot of Rays fans not too happy with the setup over at Steinbrenner Field, with the rising prices. But you kind of knew that was going to be the case. Let's go to our phones. A lot of you want to talk about the NFL. We can do that. You want to talk about the Rays? You can do that. If you're listening to us in the Pensacola area where it's snowing, I would love to hear from you. 888-546-4620. Juan is calling from St. Pete. Juan, good evening. How are you?
How are you doing, Tom?
Great. Terrific. Great.
Okay, so I know you were just talking about the Rays. I want to say this. I go to Rays games, even at the Trop last year, and tickets were more expensive this year than they were last year. A lot of the things that make a good game day experience are just so expensive, like $17 for tenders and fries. And now you look what Arthur Blank is doing. All the food in a Mercedes-Benz is so cheap. Why can't we do that?
Well, I don't think Stu Sternberg has that Home Depot money, and thanks for the phone call, on. And that's one of the perks that Atlanta has. I mean, they have discounted concession prices. It's good for them. Fantastic. And their ticket prices are a heck of a lot more expensive. It is the NFL. That's the way that works. So, again, it comes down to supply and demand. There are fewer seats available. Again, more people on the Tampa side who are, let's be honest, too lazy to drive over to the Trop. You're opening up your product to more people who otherwise would not have been your customers. And now these people are coming in droves looking to buy up seats because they normally wouldn't go to the Trop. They wouldn't go over the bridge. So now you've got a whole new market now with less supply and more demand. Do the math, folks. The Rays have done the math, and, they're going to try and profit from it. And look, they're trying to recoup some of the lost revenue that they anticipate having because they're playing in a smaller venue. So you knew that those prices were going to get jacked up. We talked about this 2 months ago after the hurricane. It's unfortunate, but some people are paying for it. So there you have it. And the Rays are going to try and squeeze as much revenue as they possibly can out of this venture because they have an uncertain future. They've got to make up their minds, by the way, by March 31st about the new stadium and the bonds and everything else. I don't know. I don't know what they're waiting for. Like a tooth fairy is going to drop out of the sky with a bag full of money. You know what? Get that bag full of money, Eric Neander, and go get yourself a bat or two.
I don't think we've addressed the offense since we last talked.
No, I don't think you have either. Oh, my goodness. 888-546-4620. All right, we'll take a timeout. One more segment. We'll try and squeeze in some phone calls. Again, if you're in the area where it's snowing, I want to hear from you. 888-546-4620. And when we come back, the final drive, one final word from yours truly, plus a look ahead to a big show tomorrow, too. That is coming up next here on The Drive.
You're locked in to The Drive with TKras.
We just talked about the Rays with Hurricane Milton knocking them out of the Trop. So now they're playing games over at Steinbrenner Field. And a lot of you still might be dealing with roof damages from that storm-filled 2024, which I hope never happens again. So you still have roof damages. You're looking to replace your roof. You got to call on my guys over at Green Tech Roofing and Solar, the #1 roofing solution in Tampa Bay. They offer free inspections. They're locally owned, licensed, and trusted by the Tampa Bay community. And beware of those out-of-market companies. They're going from door to door, taking advantage of residents. Don't go with those guys. Go with the proven company that's been there and done that. They did work on my home when I had some roof damage after Milton. Awesome. I gave them 5 stars. In fact, they have over 400 5-star reviews. They're awesome. They do commercial and residential. Depending upon the size of your home, Green Tech can have your roof completed in a single day and take care of all of that cleanup for you. So schedule your free roof inspection right now. Go to greentechroofing.com. That's Green Tech, spelled T-E-K, greentechroofing.com, and schedule your free roof inspection. Green Tech Roofing and Solar.
Because it's Mercedes-Benz.
The Drive is live with TKras on 95.3 WDAE and AM 620. The Final Drive.
Congratulations to the Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2025, Ichiro Suzuki. I can't believe there's one guy who didn't vote for him. He fell one vote shy of being the second unanimous selection behind Mariano Rivera. But Ichiro gets in, as does CC Sabathia, winner of 251 games. Billy Wagner, one of the more dominant closers of his generation, also gets in. Those who just missed out, you needed 75% of the vote. Carlos Beltran at 70%. Andrew Jones at 66%.
The Final Drive.
Guys, kick off the new year by impressing her, your better half, with a timeless diamond from the Golden Diamond Source. And if you're ready to get engaged, you want to pop the big question, head on over to the Golden Diamond Source, where you will find the perfect engagement ring. My guy Chris Mathis did it. He got the engagement ring. He proposed to his now fiancee Lily over the holidays, and she said yes. I can't believe you went to the Golden Diamond Source. This is awesome. I say yes. Make her January birthday or her second and sixth wedding anniversaries unforgettable with up to 15% off Garnet, the January birthstone. And while you're there, guys, discover Emilique by Emily Johnson Weintraub. It's awesome. It's a sleek and modern jewelry line that makes everyday gifts extraordinary. And you can also turn old, unused gold into cold, hard cash or a stunning new piece over at the Golden Diamond Source. And with gold prices soaring, now is a